Chapter 1223. Juzi, you recovered your memory so easily? Gohan, who was wearing an Ultraman costume, looked at Juzi and asked in surprise. Master, Juzi did not lose her memory from the beginning to the end. Juzi was just waiting here for Master to find Juzi. Juzi replied calmly. You are really? If it was possible, Gohan would like to have a good chat with Juzi here to see why she did not lose her memory. Unfortunately, a pair of armed soldiers appeared in the corridor, causing Gohan to dismiss this idea. He hugged Juzi in his arms and slashed with the sword energy in his hand. This building, which was made of several layers of alloy, was forcibly split open by Gohan. Gohan jumped out of this opening with Juzi and flew into the sky under the watchful eyes of everyone. Soon, they disappeared without a trace. Oh my God, Ultraman is really here. The teacher who had just persuaded Juzi to leave wiped the sweat off his forehead and said in horror. Then, he made up his mind to change the current research topic and carefully study the universe topic, whether Ultraman and Nebula M78 exist. Juzi, did you really not lose your memory from the beginning to the end? It was not until they returned to the prison that Gohan felt at ease and chatted with Juzi, who had changed back into the Juzi sword. Yes, from the first moment I came to this illusion, Juzi was Juzi. If Master did not ask Juzi, Juzi would not have known that the other sisters had lost their memory. Juzi replied. Then why did you not take the initiative to find me? Gohan asked again. Juzi could not sense Master and could not receive Master's orders. Without Master's orders, Juzi would not do anything, Juzi said methodically. Moreover, Juzi felt that if Master needed Juzi, he would definitely be able to find Juzi. Since when did you become so good at talking? Gohan rubbed his nose and then patted Juzi's head. He asked curiously, but why is that? Why did the other sword maidens lose their memory? Even Shui, who had no love for me, lost her memory, but you didn't? Could it be that you are filled with hatred for me? I might know the reason. Without waiting for Juzi to answer, Etion, who had been secretly listening, suddenly interrupted. You actually know the reason. Gohan was a little surprised. Etion had never been the most intelligent person, and he himself could not understand it in such a short period of time. So how could Etion know? Master, don't forget that Juzi has a different characteristic from us sword maidens. Whether it's Qing Pin, Qidian, me, or even the Xianyuan sword, we are all made of metal. Only Juzi is made of wood. So, I guess that it might be because of the different materials that Juzi did not lose her memory like us, Etion said quickly. Maybe that's the case. Gohan nodded thoughtfully. My master, you're really amazing. This time, you've broken the sky of our Shanghai again. You don't know how ugly our director's face is. Looks like I have to work overtime again. That afternoon, Etion, who had a noon meeting, laid on the table weakly and complained to Gohan, who was still in prison. If the director of the Public Security Bureau knew that the criminal who broke the sky was locked up in his prison, his expression would definitely be very interesting. The Great Destruction will come in 3 days. I have a feeling that if I can't awaken Zhu Xian, Xianyuan, and that extinguish immortal before the Great Destruction, I'm afraid that even if I can leave this dreamland, I won't be able to repair the extinguish immortal sword. Even with Gohan's calmness, he could not help but feel a little worried when he said this. The Zhu Xian and Xianyuan sword were fine. At least he already knew where they were. However, the extinguish immortal sword really made Gohan feel helpless. Until now, he still could not find any clues. If the extinguish immortal sword could not be awakened, then Gohan would not be able to synchronize with her. Then, in reality, what awaited Gohan seemed to be the collapse of his body. It's fine. Master, relax. Who knows? When the boat reaches the bridgehead, it will straighten out. You should think about how to conquer these two great gods, Xianyuan and Zhu Xian. When you want to save Juzi this morning, I came into contact with the two of them. You definitely won't be able to imagine what their current situation is. Etion suddenly said in a slightly mysterious tone. What happened to them? Gohan frowned when he heard this. Did they get together? How did you know? Etion was shocked when she heard this. She then smacked her lips and said, "Master, you might not believe me if I tell you, but the two of them plan to elope tonight. Gohan, Zhu Xian, have you really thought it through?" At night, in a seemingly ordinary apartment, a gorgeous, tall, and voluptuous beauty with a lazy temperament looked at Zhu Xian, who was busy going up and down in front of her, and said helplessly, "Do you regret it?" Zhu Xian's body stopped in front of Xian Yuan, then suddenly turned around. In the blink of an eye, a coldling's dagger was placed on Xuan Yuan's neck. Zhu Xian said to Xian Yuan with a cold voice filled with killing intent, "If you regret it, I'll kill you first, then commit suicide." At this moment, we could clearly see Zhu Xian's true appearance. This was a beauty that didn't lose to any sword maiden that Gohan had seen before. Her height and figure were similar to Xian Yuan, and they were both standard long-legged beauties. However, compared to Xuan Yuan's mature and lazy temperament, Zhu Xian seemed especially cold. Her entire body emitted a bone-piercing sharpness, as if she was an ice beauty that descended from the Moon Palace. Don't scare me. Didn't we say that we'll be together forever?" Xian Yuan was obviously shocked by Zhu Xian. Then, he immediately took out his tenderness and gently pulled Zhu Xian into his embrace. He said sweetly, "Although I, Xian Yuan, am a bit of a bastard, I've always been a man of my word. Since I promised to go far away with you, I won't lie. We'll leave tonight and stay far away from Shanghai. We'll live happily ever after. I believe you're telling the truth. You can't lie to me." Zhu Xian hesitated for a moment, then inserted the dagger in her hand into her slender legs. The dagger disappeared without a trace. It looked very magical, as if it had a dimensional pocket. However, upon closer inspection, you discover that Zhu Xian had inserted the dagger into her suspender stockings. With the lace pattern of the suspender stockings, it looked very sexy. "I'm telling the truth. I won't let you down." Xian Yuan hugged Zhu Xian tightly in his arms. His lips slightly lowered, and Zhu Xian shyly closed her eyes. Just as the two were about to have a forbidden lily kiss, an uninvited guest suddenly appeared. "Although I don't want to disturb the two of you, I have to remind you that if you don't leave now, you probably won't be able to," a voice said faintly. "Who is it?" Zhu Xian, who had just fallen into tenderness, immediately jumped out. She once again pulled out the dagger from her thigh and directly placed it on the throat of the mysterious person who suddenly appeared. "I won't tell you who I am for now. I don't think you have the time to listen to me in detail. I advise you to look out the window. Otherwise, don't blame me if you regret it for the rest of your life." Gohan said faintly, "Sophistry. I'll kill you." Zhu Xian glared, and the dagger in her hand was ready to slit Gohan's throat. "Don't!" Xian Yuan suddenly shouted. Hearing Gohan's words, she immediately peeked through the window. Her expression suddenly changed, and she said nervously, "Oh no, your family is here. They all have guns in their hands. I'm afraid they've already heard the news. They're here to break us up." "Miss Xian Yuan, you're wrong. They wouldn't dare hurt their eldest daughter. They're only here to kill you," Gohan said with a smile. "That's right. They're here to kill me." Xuan Yuan's expression suddenly became even more unsightly. She now understood how dangerous her situation was. At the same time, she secretly regretted it. Of all the girls he could have flirted with, why did he have to flirt with Zhu Xian, the princess of the underworld? He was Li Xian Yuan, not Li Xiaoyao. He also didn't have the ability to use a flying sword to take Lin Yueru away. "Don't panic. The door of my apartment is locked with an AI. They won't be able to break in so easily. We still have time to prepare." When Zhu Xian heard this, a hint of anxiety appeared on her cold face, but she still maintained her composure. "My eldest daughter, what are you preparing for? Let's just run away." Before Xian Yuan could finish, Zhu Xian flew to her bedside and pulled the handle of the bedside table. The wall in the room began to move like a door, and a secret compartment opened up. "Shit!" Xuan Yuan's legs trembled when she saw what was in the secret compartment. There were dozens of different weapons in the secret compartment, from a pistol the size of a matchbox to an RPG launcher. Zhu Xian had stored a complete arsenal. "Hubby, Aren't you the national shooting champion? Hurry up and pick a few weapons. We'll fight our way out. As Celestial Bane spoke, she inserted 2 or 3 pistols into her left stocking, took out 5 or 6 grenades, and hung them on her waist. Then, she carried a rifle on her back and hid 2 mini submachine guns in her clothes. Finally, she held 2 automatic rifles in her hands. Good heavens, she took out a quarter of the firearms in the arsenal by herself. She had become a mobile arsenal. What was even more amazing was that from the outside, no one would be able to tell that this woman was hiding so many things under her clothes. As the saying goes, the things she took out were bigger than the things you took out. Xian Yuan gritted his teeth. There seemed to be no other way but to fight their way out, so he rushed to the arsenal and took some weapons. However, she wasn't as strong as Zhu Xian. She only took an automatic rifle, but she carried a lot of bullets. Her waist was full of bullets. She was also a woman who could take out more weapons than Xian Yuan. No matter what your goal is, thank you for your reminder. You have nothing to do with us. Those people won't make things difficult for you. You can leave now. After equipping herself, Zhu Xian said to Gahan. At this moment, there was a shrill alarm in the room. Zhu Xian's expression changed again. Oh no, the smart lock was breached in such a short amount of time. They'll be here in 20 seconds. Let's go. Okay. Xuanyuan's expression became even worse. No matter how he looked at it, it didn't bode well for him. It seemed that it was dangerous to pick up girls in this world. If she had known earlier, she would have flirted with guys. If I were the two of you, I wouldn't be so stupid. Let me tell you, they even brought nerve gas with them. I guarantee that as long as you smell it, you will turn into a pig and sleep on the ground motionless. No matter how many weapons you have, it's useless. Guhan looked at the 2 fully armed men and sneered coldly. What? Zhu Xian's expression changed again. Obviously, she knew her father's family very well. She also knew what treasures they had in their house. At this moment, what Zhu Xian hated the most was that she didn't have 1 or 2 gas masks in her arsenal. Otherwise, she wouldn't be so helpless right now. All right, I'll cut to the chase. If you two believe me, then follow me. I'll show you a way out. If you don't believe me, then forget it. I'll just watch from the side. Gahan didn't wait for the 2 to reply. He walked out of the room and headed towards the stairs. What should we do? Should we believe him? Zhu Xian looked at Xian Yuan hesitantly. What else can we do besides believe him? Do you want to see me die here? Xian Yuan didn't say anything. At this moment, she had no other choice but to hold on to Gahan. She followed Gahan and ran towards the stairs. What else could Celestial Bane do? He could only follow behind his lover. The 3 of them ran up the stairs to the top floor of the apartment. Did you arrange a helicopter on the top floor? Xian Yuan asked expectantly when she saw Guhan leading them towards the top floor. Helicopter? I don't have that kind of thing. This isn't an American blockbuster. This is China. Helicopters won't come to pick you up everywhere. Otherwise, the first thing you'll do is get invited by the Air Traffic Control Department for tea. Guhan said indifferently. Then why did you bring us to the top floor? Do you want us to jump down? Xian Yuan said discontentedly. I don't have a helicopter, but I do have a flying motorcycle. The 3 of them finally reached the top floor. At this moment, the sound of running footsteps could be heard from the stairs below. Obviously, the gangsters who came to capture Xian Yuan and Xian Yuan had already discovered their whereabouts. They would soon reach the top floor. Flying motorcycle? You must be joking. Xuanyuan's face was full of disbelief, but she really did see a motorcycle on the top floor. It was just that the motorcycle looked so simple and crude. There were only 2 pieces of glass on the wings. Could such a motorcycle really fly? I don't know if everyone still remembers the scene where Guhan faced the zombies in Nanjing City. This motorcycle is a replica of the motorcycle from that time. But at that time, it was a maglev motorcycle. Now, it was just an ordinary motorcycle. It's up to you whether you believe me or not. Anyways, I'm leaving. Gahan nimbly rode on the motorcycle. At the same time, he twisted the handlebars. The motorcycle's engine suddenly roared. Damn it, I'll sit on you if you dare to ride. Xian Yuan also threw caution to the wind. After hesitating for a while, she sat behind Gahan. Zhu Xian naturally followed suit. The 3 of them suddenly squeezed on the motorcycle. Their bodies were tightly pressed against each other. Gahan could clearly feel the two softness on his back. "Hug me tightly," Guhan said to Xianyuan behind him, without turning his head. "Don't hug him." Xianyuan was about to wrap her arms around Gahan's waist, but she didn't expect Zhu Xian to suddenly become jealous. Xianyuan hesitated, but Guhan didn't wait for her. The motorcycle immediately sped off. Seeing that they were about to fly into the sky, Xianyuan didn't care about Zhu Xian's jealousy. Without saying anything, she hugged Gahan's waist tightly. A faintly discernible masculine scent entered Xuanyuan's nose, making her feel a different kind of pleasure. But at this time, Xianyuan didn't have the time to care about that, because the motorcycle was already in the sky. "Boss, it's a pity that the two criminals ran away. I really didn't expect there to be black technology like gliding motorcycles." In Xianyuan and Zhu Xian's apartment, a few police officers who came here for nothing reported to Etian helplessly. "Forget it. Just the guns and ammunition we've seized are enough to prove that we didn't come here for nothing. We've made a great contribution this time. We've destroyed a terrorist organization that tried to disrupt the order of Demon City and carried out a terrorist attack. This is a great contribution," Etian said with a smile. Chapter 1224. Wow, this motorcycle can actually fly in the sky. Seeing himself gliding steadily in the air, Xianyuan was incomparably surprised. Actually, let alone a pair of wings. Even if a motorcycle had 10 pairs of wings, it still wouldn't be able to fly in the sky. Gahan merely tied the Juzi sword to the motorcycle. The actual flying object was the Juzi sword. It had nothing to do with the motorcycle. But how do we land? It's easy for the motorcycle to fly, but I'm afraid there will be a big problem when we land. Zhu Xian was the calmest, and was the first to consider the problem of landing. "No problem. I've already planned it out. In front of us is the ocean. We can directly land in the ocean. That way, we won't suffer too much of an impact," Gahan said confidently. Xianyuan and Zhu Xian didn't say anything, because landing in the ocean was indeed the best choice. But very quickly, Zhu Xian and Zhu Xian realized something was wrong. The motorcycle's gliding ability was a bit too good. After gliding in the air for a full 20 to 30 minutes, it felt like they were more than 100 kilometers away from the coastline, but the motorcycle was still gliding in the air. "Hurry up and stop. We're too far from the shore." As soon as Zhu Xian's voice fell, the dagger was pressed against Guhan's back. One could imagine the threat it posed. "I advise you not to do this. If I die, you two will be finished." Gahan didn't care about the dagger, and said indifferently, "You have to understand me. I have to find a place close to land. Otherwise, do you plan on swimming in the ocean for the whole night? Then hurry up and find it." Zhu Xian pushed again. Gahan shrugged. "I can't control that. Leave it to fate." Gahan left it to fate for a full hour. Zhu Xian had thoughts of killing him several times, but didn't dare to make a move. While he was hesitating, he suddenly felt the motorcycle begin to rapidly descend, and finally landed in the ocean with a splash. At this time, the sky was pitch black. We could only hear Gahan's loud voice. "Everyone, swim to the east. There's a small island less than 500 meters away from us. We'll be safe once we swim to the island." Hearing Guhan's words, Xianyuan swam towards the island as fast as he could. On the other hand, Celestial Bane was having a huge problem. She was horrified to realize that her legs were cramping violently the moment they came into contact with the seawater after sitting on the motorcycle for too long. Anyone who liked to swim knew that cramping in the water was the most dangerous thing, because at this time, people could no longer make any swimming posture because of the severe pain. They could only struggle in the water based on their instincts, and the more they struggled in the water, the faster they would sink, not to mention in the dangerous sea. As a result, Celestial Bane quickly choked on a few mouthfuls of salty seawater. Then, he felt dizzy and silently sank to the bottom of the sea. "Xianyuan, don't abandon me. Save me." This was Zhu Xian's last thought before he lost consciousness. "Who's kissing me?" When her consciousness gradually returned, Celestial Bane faintly felt someone kissing her lips. She opened her eyes and saw that it wasn't her beloved Xian Yuan, but the mysterious man who suddenly appeared. Shameless. Pervert. Celestial Bane didn't even think and directly slapped the man's face. But as soon as the slap ended, she suddenly felt nauseous. A large mouthful of salty seawater instantly sprayed out, spraying all over the man's face. Looks like you're fine now. Gohan calmly wiped the seawater off his face and looked at Celestial Bane. Sorry, I was impulsive. Celestial Bane finally realized that she was the one who bit the hand that fed her. This man only kissed her to give her CPR, to save her life, not to take advantage of her. It's fine. I'll remember this slap. You owe me a favor. Gohan said bluntly. All right, I owe you a favor. Celestial Bane glared at Gohan, but straightforwardly accepted the favor. She struggled to stand up from the beach and looked around to find her lover. But it was late at night, and this seemed to be a deserted island. There was no light at all, and Celestial Bane couldn't find any trace of Xian Yuan. Where's my husband? Where is he now? Celestial Bane asked excitedly. Don't ask me. He abandoned you and went ashore first. How would I know where he is now? Gohan said indifferently. No, Xian Yuan wouldn't leave me alone. Hearing Gohan say this, Celestial Bane said somewhat foolishly, whether you believe it or not, he just wants to play with your feelings. Gohan unceremoniously left a nail in Celestial Bane's heart. Right? I haven't asked you, who are you? Why are you helping us? Probably to avoid Xuan Yuan's question, Celestial Bane began to question Gohan's identity. Don't use the identity of a passerby to fool me. Do you think a passerby would prepare a flying motorcycle on the roof of my apartment? Good question. Let me think. Should I tell you the truth, or should I tell you a lie? Gohan smiled faintly. Fine, I'll tell you both the truth and the lie. The lie is that I'm really a passerby, and the flying motorcycle was placed there by God. The truth is that I'm secretly in love with Xian Yuan. Seeing Xian Yuan with you makes my heart ache, but I can't stop it. I can only watch you two silently and plan how to secretly kill you so that I could take Xian Yuan back. Unfortunately, not only did I not find a chance to kill you, but I encountered your father's subordinates who came to kill Xian Yuan, so I had no choice but to show myself. As for the flying motorcycle, I had planned to use it to escape with Xian Yuan after killing you. I didn't expect it to become a tool to save you too. So that's how it is. Although I want to thank you for saving my life, I still have to tell you that Xian Yuan is mine. We will be together for the rest of our lives. Even if I die, Xian Yuan will not live alone. She will die with me. That's what she told me herself. So that's how it is. Although I want to thank you for saving my life, I still have to tell you that Xian Yuan is mine. Actually, if one were to think about it carefully, one would realize that the reason Gohan made up was full of loopholes. However, perhaps because it involved his lover, Celestial Bane's IQ had dropped to less than 60, so it wasn't surprising that it couldn't understand the problem. Celestial Bane, my wife. Celestial Bane, my wife. Where are you? At this moment, a loud shout came from the sea. It was Xuan Yuan's voice. Obviously, Xian Yuan had found his way here. How about this? Hearing Xuan Yuan's voice, Gohan revealed a playful smile. He quickly covered Celestial Bane's mouth with his hand and said provocatively, How about this? You pretend to be dead first, and then observe Xuan Yuan's reaction? Let's see if she will really live and die with you. Bah, that's the stupidest thing to do if you don't trust your partner. Xian Yuan and I are truly in love. There's no need for such shallow tests between us. Celestial Bane said softly. Then I'll do as you please. Anyway, I think you were drowning. If I didn't save you, you would have died in the sea. How about this? I didn't call out to you from start to finish. You've already drowned. You're just a floating corpse in the sea now. That's not a lie. Gohan's words sounded strange, but the effect was very obvious. Celestial Bane's body trembled slightly, and he said seriously, I don't need you to save me. Just pretend I'm dead. With that, Celestial Bane really died, lying motionless on the beach. Sigh. Women are always acting the same way they say they are. They can never let go of their suspicions. Gohan smiled bitterly in his heart, then stood up and replied to Xian Yuan in the distance. Over here. Miss Celestial Bane is here. Hearing Gahan's response, Xianyuan immediately ran over and asked anxiously, "How is it? What happened to Celestial Bane?" Sigh. Gohan let out a long sigh. Miss Celestial Bane seemed to have a cramp when she fell into the water. She was washed ashore by the sea. When I found her, she was no longer alive. What? This is impossible. This is impossible. Xianyuan panicked. He immediately rushed to Celestial Bane's side and used his finger to test Celestial Bane's nose. He touched Celestial Bane's chest and found that she really wasn't breathing. He let out a sad cry. "Wife, my wife, you died so miserably." Seeing Xianyuan crying, Gahan found it funny and said, "I heard that you and Celestial Bane had an agreement. The two of you will live and die together. Even if you can't be born on the same day, the same year, the same month, the same day, you will die on the same day. You won't die for her, will you? And where did you hear this news? When did I ever say such a thing?" Xianyuan coughed. He didn't know that Celestial Bane, who was originally feeling sweet, instantly clenched her fists. She wanted to stab the unlucky Xianyuan to death with a dagger. "Oh, so you didn't say that. That's good. The dead can't come back to life. You should get over it." Gohan quickly helped Xianyuan to the side. Celestial Bane had been holding her breath for a few minutes. If he didn't pull Xianyuan away, Celestial Bane would probably be exposed. Hey, although Celestial Bane is cold, arbitrary, and likes to force others to do things that they don't want to do, she's also very arrogant, self-centered, and doesn't allow others to have other opinions. She thinks that she did the right thing when she obviously did something wrong. She always thinks that everyone else in the world is stupid, and only she and I are smart. Xianyuan listed out more than 10 of Celestial Bane's flaws in one breath. If Xianyuan hadn't added at the end, "Although she has so many flaws, I still love her." She was probably so angry that Celestial Bane, who was lying on the beach pretending to be dead, wanted to jump up and stab Xianyuan to death. "By the way, who are you? Why did you come to save us?" Xianyuan quickly asked the same question that Celestial Bane had just asked. "Hey, you probably never noticed that I've been secretly watching you from the corner." Then, Gahan told Xianyuan what he had said to Xianyuan. "Are you saying that you like me?" Xianyuan narrowed his eyes. "But I like women, I don't like men." "I don't think so." Gahan suddenly hugged Xianyuan and unceremoniously placed his hand on Xuanyuan's wet thigh. With a hoarse and seductive voice, he said, "That's because you haven't tasted the benefits of a man. There are some things that a woman can't give you. Only a man can enter your heart." At that moment, Xianyuan once again smelled the masculine scent of Gahan on the motorbike. His heart couldn't help but sway. No, what's so good about men? It's disgusting. Women are better. Although Xianyuan said that, he allowed Gahan's hand to be placed on his thigh. "Then can you tell me why you don't like men?" Gahan's hand continued to rub up and down Xuanyuan's supple thigh. "Men are all bad people. They are irresponsible and have no feelings. They borrow someone's hand to defeat a strong enemy and then throw them to the ground. They even carve mountains, rivers, the sun, the moon, the 4 seasons, and the 5 valleys on someone else's body. Nominally, they want someone else to be their world, but in the end, they carry the world on someone else's shoulders and become an emperor. Men are all bastards. They're all bastards." Xianyuan seemed to have fallen into a state of confusion. His words were strange and confusing, as if he was telling a completely unrelated story. "I'm not that kind of man." Gohan's hand suddenly stopped. After thinking for a long time, he whispered in Xuanyuan's ear, "In this world, life, death, peace, chaos, love, hate, reunion, separation, joy, pain, recovery, extinction, I will bear all of it. I will bear all of it. You only need to be in my hand and become the pole that I carry the world with." "Really?" Xianyuan suddenly turned his head and looked into Gahan's eyes. There was a different emotion in his eyes. "My name is Gahan. You only need to trust me." Xianyuan took the initiative and kissed Gahan's lips. Hearing the shameless, lewd words of the couple, the sound of sex, and the moans of a woman that she had never heard from Xuanyuan's mouth, Zhu Xian, who was lying on the beach, could no longer act. She suddenly screamed and got up from the beach. She slapped Xuanyuan's face and cursed. "Bastard, I hate you." Then, he fled the place while crying. Xuanyuan was stunned. He was about to get up and chase after Zhu Xian, but he didn't expect that Gahan would push against him. Xuanyuan's body went limp, and he couldn't get up anymore. "Don't worry about her. It's useless to talk to her now. It's better to let her calm down," Gahan said, sticking close to Xuanyuan's body. But she has a gun on her. What if she kills herself?" Xuanyuan moaned nervously. "Don't worry. With her personality, she would never commit suicide. Your appearance now is just adding fuel to the fire. Besides, do you want both of us to be suspended in midair?" Guhan said as he pushed with all his might again. "All right, I'll listen to you." Xuanyuan moaned. "But you're really brave. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you after we leave the illusion?" Gahan's body stiffened. He said awkwardly, "Lady Xuanyuan, are you awake? Didn't you say the incantation?" "That incantation is just a medium. Move quickly. I'm an Emperor Sword Lady. I don't need a medium like this," Xuanyuan said. Suddenly, a pair of slender legs clamped onto Gahan's back. Being clamped by these legs, Gahan instantly turned into a piston engine. Chapter 12:25. Strange, what's wrong with me today? Why did I suddenly? Climbing up from Xuanyuan's body, Gahan thought about what he'd just done as he walked. He felt that it was very strange. He wasn't that thirsty. Besides, Xuanyuan was an Emperor Sword mistress. Even if it was for the sake of getting along with Xuanyuan in the future, he should have kept a certain distance from her. He shouldn't have acted like he did just now. Just because Xuanyuan kissed him, he couldn't wait to do it with Xuanyuan. This was completely different from his original personality. Who is it? Who's secretly plotting against me? Gahan suddenly stopped and shouted into the dark sky. However, Gahan's voice didn't receive any reply. There was only a wave of empty silence. "Even if you don't come out, I know who you are. It's your illusion. Aside from you, no one can affect me." Gahan's words clearly pointed out the other party, but she still didn't respond. It was as if Gahan hadn't spoken at all. "I will find you. Celestial Extinguishing Sword Lady." As soon as Gahan's voice fell, a huge wind blew. The flying fine sand became abnormally sharp under the wind. It actually scratched a few bloody marks on Gahan's face. Angry? Gahan touched his face. The strange wind immediately calmed down. "What are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be with Xuanyuan?" When Gahan found Celestial Bane was hugging his thigh and sitting on a half-rotten old tree on the beach. Needless to say, he looked extremely pitiful. "Xuanyuan is a little worried about you, but she doesn't have the face to see you, so she asked me to come." Gahan lied fluently. Why? Why did she lie to me? Since she knows I only like women, why did she flirt with me? We agreed to live and die together. Otherwise, I wouldn't have abandoned my father and eloped with her. Why? At this moment, Celestial Bane had taken off her cold mask and was crying helplessly like a child. There are many things in this world that don't have a reason. If you really want to find a reason, it will only be covered by more and more reasons. Gahan patted Celestial Bane's shoulder. "Let go. You can go back to your father, and Xuanyuan can live a normal life. This is the best outcome for the two of you." "Let go of my shoulder." Zhu Xian shook off Gahan's hand and said mournfully, "You finally achieved your goal. You got the person you love and left me alone. Of course you can say such beautiful words. Get lost. I don't want to see you." "All right then. I'm going to accompany Xuanyuan, but you have to promise me that you won't commit suicide. Otherwise, Xuanyuan will hate me," Gahan said lightly. "You're purposely trying to piss me off." Hearing this, Celestial Bane was infuriated. She grabbed a handful of sand from the beach and threw it at Gahan's face. She said angrily, "Based on what? The two of you were together and left me here alone. It's all because of you. You stole Xuanyuan away. If it wasn't for you, Xuanyuan wouldn't be like this. That's right. You tricked me into pretending to be dead. You got the chance right. You liar. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you." Celestial Bane pulled out a small pistol from her thigh. She pointed it at Gahan's head and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Unfortunately, the pistol didn't react at all. Hey, you've been soaking in the water for tens of minutes. What kind of pistol do you think can be waterproof to this extent? Guhan slapped Celestial Bane's head. Celestial Bane's eyes turned red from anger. She threw the pistol aside and pulled out the sharp dagger from her thigh. She slashed at Guhan's neck. What? Is there a need to be so ruthless? Guhan grabbed Celestial Bane's wrist. Before the dagger could touch his skin, it was stopped by Guhan. With a twist of his hand, Celestial Bane was controlled by Guhan. You. Celestial Bane realized that she had miscalculated. This man's martial arts were so powerful. She had received several years of professional martial arts training. She didn't expect that she couldn't even last a second in this guy's hands. Do you think a man who can drive a flying motorcycle can't handle your lousy martial arts? Guhan laughed and pushed Celestial Bane away. If you want to have a good chat with me, let's have a good chat. If you don't want to chat, I'll go find Xin Yuan. I'm too lazy to bother you. Celestial Bane didn't say anything. It was unknown what her attitude was. From the looks of it, you still love Xin Yuan and don't want to be separated from her, right? Guhan smiled and suddenly said, So what if I am? I just want to be with Xin Yuan. If you didn't show up, If I didn't show up, you'd be taken home and Xin Yuan would be beaten into a sieve. Your angry father would throw him out to feed the dogs. Guhan said on behalf of Celestial Bane. Then I thank you. Can you be a good person to the end? Leave my Xin Yuan, and I'll give you a lot of money. Celestial Bane suddenly begged. I don't lack money. If I remember correctly, your father gave me 200 million renminbi a few days ago. I haven't spent it yet. Guhan said with a smile. You're the mysterious man who robbed the entire underworld of Shanghai. Celestial Bane was shocked. She had heard a story from her father that sounded like a fairy tale. It was about a man who had robbed half of the underworld in Shanghai. Whether it was knives, guns, or even grenades and rockets, they couldn't do any harm to this man. Those bosses could only helplessly pay up and keep the peace. If there isn't a second person who did this, it should be me. Guhan licked his lips. I have a good suggestion. You should be like Xin Yuan and be my woman. What nonsense are you talking about? Men are the most disgusting things in the world. I'd rather die than be with a man and you, Celestial Bane said loudly. After saying that, Celestial Bane raised the dagger in her hand and wanted to stab Guhan's heart. Of course, she was easily stopped by Guhan. Even if you don't agree with me, don't do it. It's going to hurt our relationship. Guhan held Celestial Bane's hand and said calmly, Besides, don't be so absolute. If you're with me, you can live with Xin Yuan again. Guhan tempted her again. What do you mean? Celestial Bane's expression changed, and she quickly calmed down. The reason why your father stopped you from being with Xin Yuan is because Xin Yuan is a woman. He can't accept that his daughter is a lily. But if you're with me, your father won't have any objections. I believe your father will be very happy to have a powerful son-in-law like me. But if you're with me, you can be with Xin Yuan, Guhan said with a smile. This, Celestial Bane's body trembled. Look, Xin Yuan is now my woman. If you get together with me, Xin Yuan will become your woman again. Then, you can be with Xin Yuan legally, as long as it doesn't affect my relationship with Xin Yuan. Isn't that perfect? Guhan said seductively. That's the best of both worlds. Guhan said. Celestial Bane began to hesitate. She had to admit that she was tempted by Guhan's words. Yes, if she pretended to be with this Guhan, then wouldn't she be with Xin Yuan? Wouldn't she and Xin Yuan not have to separate? Then will Xin Yuan still be with you, together like that? Celestial Bane thought for a moment and asked shyly. Of course, I'm helping you. I can't throw away my own benefits. Just treat it as if Xin Yuan is two-timing. Tonight with me, tomorrow with you. I can accept that, Guhan replied. But if that's the case, what benefits do you get? Didn't I steal half of your Xin Yuan? Celestial Bane asked curiously. I don't mind telling you, this is a gamble. Guhan's hand pressed on Celestial Bane's thigh. Celestial Bane was stimulated by the warm palm and her body softened. She panted and asked, What are you betting on? I'm betting on you. Guhan's hand slowly caressed Celestial Bane's lower abdomen. I bet that I can also hold you in my hand and let you know that in this world, men are much more fun than women. Qian Fugui anxiously paced around his office. Almost all the flower pots and sundries in the office had been replaced. Even Qian Fugui's favorite chair had its legs broken. His daughter had been missing for a night, and he heard that the police had raided the apartment. He still didn't know whether his daughter had escaped or was caught by the police. Boss Qian, long time no see. Just as Qian Fugui was pacing around anxiously, a voice that once made Qian Fugui's heart tremble rang in his ears. Qian Fugui panicked and looked behind him. He immediately took out a pistol from his belt. Suddenly, he thought of something and threw the pistol on the ground. With a bitter face, he said to the man, "Little brother, haven't I already given you the money? Why are you looking for me again? Hey, father-in-law, please don't laugh at me. I'm not here to ask for money. I'm here to pay you back," Gohan said with a smile and clapped his hands. A huge pile of cash appeared out of thin air in his office. Although he had seen the man turn the cash into nothing in the blink of an eye, Qian Fugui was still shocked when he saw the cash appear in his office in the blink of an eye. "You're here to pay me back?" Qian Fugui asked with uncertainty. Then, he immediately realized that there was something wrong with the man's words. His expression changed again, and he asked with a trembling voice, "Little brother, what did you just say? What did you call me?" "Father-in-law, of course," Gohan said passionately. "A few days ago, I didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and offended you. However, when I saw Miss Celestial Jade yesterday, I was shocked. I'm willing to love Miss Celestial Jade for the rest of my life. Under my sincere pursuit, Miss Celestial Jade has agreed to marry me. From now on, I'm your son-in-law, and you're my father-in-law." "What? You're engaged to Celestial Jade? Where is Celestial Jade now? Was she arrested by the police?" Qian Fugui asked. "I managed to rescue Miss Celestial Jade before the police arrived. However, the police are searching for her everywhere, so I didn't dare to show her face. However, I've already placed her in an absolutely safe place. As long as you agree, I'll be your son-in-law from now on," Gohan said sincerely. "Great. That's great." Qian Fugui was stunned for a while, and suddenly started clapping hard. Although the brat in front of him was a little mysterious, his strength was undeniable. He was like a god in the legends. More importantly, he was a man, a real man. Marrying a man was better than marrying a woman. Qian Fugui naturally had no reason to stop him. A sinister smile appeared on his face, and he hugged his new son-in-law. The two of them gathered together and began a secret conversation. "What did you say to my father? Why is he so nice to you?" Celestial Jade asked Gohan curiously in Chidian's antique villa. She had just had a video call with her father. Her father was full of praise for Gohan, saying that he didn't want any other son-in-law but Gohan. He was relieved that Celestial Jade would live a good life with Gohan. "It's not a big deal. Your father just asked me to kill a few business rivals. If those opponents were good people, I would still be a little hesitant, but you also know what kind of people your father's opponents are. I won't have any psychological burden to kill such people. If they're killed, then so be it. Just treat it as getting rid of evil for the people," Gohan said with a smile. "You two are birds of the same feather." Celestial Jade rolled her eyes at Gohan and ran upstairs to decorate the villa. She was ready to make this her new home. In comparison, Xin Yuan was very lazy, lying on the sofa. "It's so boring," Xin Yuan shouted at Gohan. "This TV is so boring. Find me something good." "There's a CD in the TV cabinet. Watch the movie yourself," Gohan said. Xin Yuan helplessly got up and opened the TV cabinet. Her eyes lit up, and she took out a brightly colored CD. The cover of the CD was filled with Japanese words, and there were some beautiful women in an indescribable state on the packaging. Xin Yuan was suddenly interested and quickly inserted the CD into the DVD player. After a familiar adult film music and red and white warning text, an indescribable, mysterious plot unfolded. "Wow, there's such a thing," Xin Yuan exclaimed. Although Xin Yuan was usually full of dirty jokes, when she had sex with Gohan last night, she was still a cute novice. She had only unlocked a few simple positions. Xian Yuan was immediately captivated by this Japanese erotic action film. She even took out a small notebook and a pen and started taking notes carefully. Chapter 1226. The sixth day. This shameless, adulterous couple, Jade Dynasty said with a red face when they heard the sound of pa 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 coming from the next room. When she found Xian Yuan watching a movie in the living room on the first floor, the movie was already coming to an end. Xian Yuan, who had learned a lot of different positions, couldn't wait to pull Gahan into his room and start experimenting with sex. This made Zhu Xian suffer. She couldn't help but listen to Xuan Yuan's sex. She wanted to pinch them to death, but deep down, she was also curious about the matter. That night, according to the agreement between Zhu Xian and Gahan, it was time for Zhu Xian and Xian Yuan to be alone. Xian Yuan did accompany Zhu Xian for a while, but throughout the process, Xian Yuan seemed a little absent-minded. Obviously, he didn't pay attention to Zhu Xian. Zhu Xian barely talked to Xian Yuan for a while, then angrily took out her dagger and put it on Xuan Yuan's neck. She cried and asked, "You're still thinking about that damn man, right? You don't have me in your heart, do you?" "Hey, you can't say that. After all, we've been together for the longest time, and we've only known Gohan for a day. Of course, I like you more," Xian Yuan quickly explained. "Then why are you still thinking about that man when you're with me?" Zhu Xian asked unwillingly. "That's just physical pleasure. It's a little memorable." Xian Yuan tried every possible way to make Zhu Xian happy. The two of them chatted for a while. Zhu Xian suddenly grabbed Xuan Yuan's hand and asked shyly, "Xian Yuan, why don't you do what you did with that stinky man to me?" Xuan Yuan's body stiffened. "What do you mean?" I just want you to know that whatever that stinky man can give you, I can also give you. From now on, it'll be good for you to be with me. You won't have to be bullied by that stinky man anymore," Jade Dynasty said shyly. "Oh, that sounds reasonable." Xuan Yuan's eyes lit up. She had already experienced it with men, but she hadn't experienced it with women. Xian Yuan showed a lewd smile. Then the two women fell on each other. Below are a few thousand words. After grinding tofu with Xian Yuan for the whole night, Zhu Xian lay on the bed pretending to sleep. Even though he had done those shameful things with Xian Yuan, Zhu Xian still felt a sense of emptiness in his heart. This emptiness was even greater than when he was grinding tofu with Xian Yuan. Zhu Xian had an urge to find something to fill himself with. After letting his imagination run wild for a while, Zhu Xian suddenly realized that Xian Yuan, who seemed to be sleeping soundly, had secretly crawled out of the room. "Xian Yuan." Zhu Xian wanted to call out to Xian Yuan, but she thought of something and closed her mouth. After a few minutes, she tiptoed out of her room and put her ear to the door next door. She exerted a little force and found that the door wasn't closed. There was a small gap, allowing Zhu Xian to see what was happening in the room through the gap. Needless to say, something indescribable was going on in the room next door. What was even more hateful was that the two of them were not only secretly eating, but they were also chatting shamelessly. "Why are you here again? Didn't I feed you for the whole afternoon?" Gahan looked helpless. He didn't want to have sex with Xian Yuan. "Don't mention it. I don't know what's wrong with Zhu Xian. Why does she have to do the same thing as us? She doesn't have a thing like you, so she can only grind tofu in the air. She's making me burn with lust, so I have no choice but to find you to fill the void," Xian Yuan said in distress. Gahan didn't know what to say. "Bastard." Zhu Xian, who was listening at the door, clenched her fists. Blood rushed to her head, and she directly pushed the door open. She swaggered in and pushed Xian Yuan, who was riding on Gahan, away, and took off her clothes. As she cried, she prepared to sit on Gahan. She murmured, "I want to see what it feels like. I can't do it. The great Zhu Xian, can't be compared to this man." Looking at Zhu Xian's white and slender legs kneeling below him, Gahan was very excited. Just as Zhu Xian was about to sit down, Zhu Xian's body suddenly stiffened. A dagger suddenly appeared in her hand, and she slashed at Gahan's erect thing. Damn, Gahan was too careless. He didn't expect Zhu Xian to do something like this. Gahan didn't have time to react. He felt a sharp pain from his lower body. Then blood gushed out from his lower body like a fountain. His poor little thing fell to the side, becoming a sausage. Wow, there's such a plot twist. Xian Yuan clapped in excitement. He wondered if he should try it out himself. Goddess Zhu Xian, you've awakened? Guhan endured the pain and covered his lower body that was spurting blood as he asked Zhu Xian. If I didn't awaken, wouldn't you, and you have your way? Zhu Xian said angrily with a red face. It seemed that Zhu Xian had already recovered her memory. This has nothing to do with me. This has nothing to do with me. This idea was thought up by Gahan. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just an accomplice. Xian Yuan said with a smile. You still have the cheek to say that. Zhu Xian's blood-stained dagger was pointed at Xuan Yuan's head. Her face was so red that it looked like she was about to explode. How could I with you? Zhu Xian was so ashamed that she couldn't speak. Seeing Zhu Xian like this, Guhan remembered that Zhu Xian and Xian Yuan's sword didn't have a good relationship. The two of them often quarreled in real life. They would mock each other, and it looked like they couldn't wait to piss each other off. Now, not only did these two sworn enemies get together to have a lesbian romance, they even had a bout of tofu. What kind of F***CK was this? No wonder Celestial J Dynasty was so embarrassed. This feeling was like Cao Cao and Liu Bei, these two archenemies, suddenly discovering that one day they fell in love with each other and even had a physical relationship with each other. I'll settle this with you later. Zhu Xian put away her dagger, then looked at Gahan again. Oh, right. How did you find out that I've awakened? Do you even need to ask? Gahan endured the pain and took out his med bay from his dimensional pocket. If you're still the original Zhu Xian, even if you're 10 times faster, you won't be able to harm me. To make me unable to react in time, other than the awakening of your main body, what other reason could there be? Zhu Xian snorted coldly. This is a lesson for you. Even if you're trying to awaken my memory, there are some red lines you can't touch. I'm not like that shameless woman Xian Yuan, who pounces on men whenever she sees them. Don't even think about touching me in the future. Yes, Guhan replied helplessly. After today's experience, Gahan felt that Zhu Xian was a little traumatized. How would he dare to have any ill intentions towards Zhu Xian? After saying that, Gahan laid down in the med bay and let the med bay repair his damaged body. Although this was an illusion, it wouldn't harm his real body. Even if he didn't repair his lower body, Gahan would still be a real man when he returned to the real world. But even if it was only in an illusion, Guhan could not accept that he had become an incomplete man. This was different from becoming Gu Xian Yuan. The 7th day, early the next morning, Gahan climbed out of the med bay. Seeing that his precious had recovered, Gahan heaved a sigh of relief. He put on his clothes and returned to the living room, only to see Xian Yuan and Zhu Xian staring at each other. When Gahan appeared, they shouted in unison, "What are you standing there for? Hurry up and make dinner." "Forget it. Just do whatever you want." Gahan rolled his eyes at them, then took out 2 bags of bread from his dimensional pocket and tossed it to them. The two of them each grabbed a handful of bread and glared fiercely at each other. Then, they stared at each other and began to chew on the bread in big mouthfuls. Seeing this amusing scene, Guhan couldn't help but laugh. When the two of them were almost done eating, he asked, "Lady Immortal Slaying, why did you suddenly wake up yesterday? I wasn't prepared at all." Zhu Xian glared at Gahan, but didn't answer. It was Xian Yuan who answered with a smile. "Didn't I say that we Emperor's sword ladies are different from normal sword ladies? The celestial extinguished sword's power can't completely control us. At most, it can only temporarily confuse us. As long as we receive some intense mental stimulation, we'll be able to wake up from our dejected state. We don't have to be like your sword ladies, who had to fall in love with you first and then chant an incantation. Then why didn't you tell me earlier?" Gahan was even angrier. If Xian Yuan had told him earlier, then Gahan wouldn't have had to create such a scene. What kind of intense mental stimulation wasn't easy to get? Why did he have to do something like this, causing him to lose his little brother? "Why should I tell you?" Xian Yuan shrugged his shoulders and smiled. "If I told you, wouldn't I miss such an interesting scene? Xian Yuan, I'm going to kill you." Hearing Xuanyuan's words, Zhu Xian once again unceremoniously took out her dagger, wanting to fight to the death with Xianyuan. If it wasn't for Gahan stopping her in time, the entire villa would have been destroyed by the two of them. That's right, Zhu Xian. I remember you said 3 last night. 2 of them were me and Xianyuan. So the third, you must be referring to the celestial extinguished sword. After the 2 of them calmed down, Gahan asked seriously, who else could it be other than her? I don't believe that my good sister wasn't behind this. This is an illusion that she created. If she wanted to create something disgusting, it would be a piece of cake. Zhu Xian said hatefully. According to what you're saying, the celestial extinguished sword has already awakened and even recovered its memories. Gahan said, that's most likely the case. Xianyuan continued, I can feel the scent of the celestial extinguished sword in this illusion. If it wasn't for the awakening of her power, this wouldn't have happened. That's strange. I remember before entering this illusion, didn't you tell me that as long as we can awaken the celestial extinguished sword's memories, we can return to this world? Since the celestial extinguished sword's consciousness has awakened, why hasn't this illusion disappeared? Gahan asked again. That's because she doesn't want to leave this place. Zhu Xian sighed. If my sister is still reluctant to leave this illusion and doesn't want to leave, then it's useless no matter what we say. She'll make the illusion repeat itself. That's right, and we don't have much time left to convince the celestial extinguished sword. Xianyuan continued. If I remember correctly, there's only 1 more day left. That's the 8th of August, which is the day of the apocalypse. That day should be the cutoff point of the illusion's reincarnation cycle. Once that time passes, the illusion will return to its original position, and celestial extinguished sword will fall into a deep slumber again. We'll be ejected from the illusion by celestial extinguished sword, and it'll be impossible for us to enter again. Celestial extinguished sword won't give us a second chance to disturb her. In other words, we have 1 day to convince celestial extinguished sword to give up this illusion. Otherwise, everything will be for naught. Zhu Xian said, I'm afraid we don't have 1 day. Gahan smiled bitterly as he looked at the watch in his hand. It's 10:07 in the morning, and the apocalypse will begin at 6:18 in the morning. We only have less than 20 hours left. After knowing the final time limit, Gahan and the other sword maidens could no longer live leisurely. All of the sword maidens, including the reluctant Xianyuan and Zhu Xian, were ordered by Gahan to frantically search for traces of the celestial extinguished sword in the city. Fortunately, Gahan wasn't completely without clues about the celestial extinguished sword, because the celestial extinguished sword and the celestial extinguished sword were like twin sisters. The 2 sword maidens looked exactly the same. They only needed to refer to the celestial extinguished sword appearance to find the celestial extinguished sword. This was also the only clue that Gahan and the others could use to find the celestial extinguished sword. As an undercover agent of the Public Security Bureau, Etian naturally took on the most important role. In the name of arresting a criminal suspect, she sent all of her subordinates to take a photo of the celestial extinguished sword and ask around the world. Etian, on the other hand, constantly browsed through the Public Security Bureau's household registration system, trying to find a photo that looked exactly like the celestial extinguished sword. Qi Jian, on the other hand, played the role of her father and best friend, using their network of connections to find traces of the celestial extinguished sword. The 2 cute kids, Qing Pin and Douyu, hung a sign on their bodies that said they were looking for their mothers, then pasted a photo of the celestial extinguished sword on the sign. They walked pitifully on the street, constantly crying to passers-by that their mothers were missing, hoping that passers-by would help them find their mothers. Because they couldn't stand the cute looks of these 2 kids, passers-by all posted on Weibo and Moments to help Qing Pin and Douyu find their mothers. The celestial extinguished sword and Xianyuan sword wandered around the world. According to them, they were very familiar with the celestial extinguished sword. As long as they were close enough, they would be able to sense each other's existence, so they just needed to run around the world. Their explanations sounded very reasonable, but no matter how Guhan listened to it, it sounded like they were just finding an excuse for themselves to go shopping. Only Juzi and Shui had no convenient way to use it, so they could only use the most primitive method, which was to sit in the corner of the street and stare at every passerby. Time passed by, until the sky was completely dark. Gahan and the others still couldn't find any clues. Etion's eyes were crooked from staring at the computer. Chidian's father hid when he saw Chidian. Qing Pin and Doyu couldn't find the celestial extinguished sword, but instead, they lured their parents from this world over. If it wasn't for Qing Pin and Doyu's quick reflexes, transforming back into their sword forms and flying back, they might have been captured by their parents. All in all, there were no results or clues. It was as if the celestial extinguished sword did not exist in this city at all. Soon, it was midnight, and there were only 6 hours left before the illusion would reset. If they still couldn't find the celestial extinguished sword within these 6 hours, then everything would be over. Chapter 12:27. Have they found the sword lady you're looking for? Late at night, when Gahan was a little sleepy, a person that Gahan didn't expect suddenly appeared by his side and asked him, "She's hiding very well. We haven't found her yet." Gahan replied faintly, then looked curiously at Shui in front of him. This was probably the first time she took the initiative to talk to him since she awakened her memory. "If you can't find her, will you die?" Shui asked a very sharp question. "I can't say that I will definitely die." Gahan thought about it, then shook his head and said, "According to Zhu Xian, the moment my body in reality turns back into Gahan, my half-synchronized body will collapse. But this doesn't mean that I'll die. I feel that if I prepare enough Emperor's blood, I might be able to recreate a perfect body before my body completely collapses. Is the possibility of this very high? I don't know about this. After all, this is the first time I've done this kind of thing. Even if my body can be preserved, the synchronized Zhu Xian sword will definitely not be preserved. Maybe my life as a sword wielder will be frozen at the spirit sword level." Gohan was speaking the truth. "It's best if you die," Shui said in a strange tone, then pointed at the television in front of Gahan. "Watch the television. You might have an unexpected harvest." Watch the television? Gahan wanted to ask more, but Shui had already turned into a sword light and returned to Gahan's scabbard. Although he was a little confused about Shui's actions, Gahan still turned on the television. It was already past 1 o'clock in the morning. Although most of the television stations were still broadcasting programs, they were basically replays of some TV dramas or commercials. They were considered to be programs without any substance. Gahan didn't know why the past water sword wanted him to turn on the TV, but Gahan believed that Shui wouldn't be speaking without thinking. He flipped through the channels one by one, stopping at each channel for more than 10 seconds to carefully observe the programs being broadcasted. However, he didn't find any valuable clues until Gahan flipped to Shanghai satellite TV. The Shanghai Municipal Party Secretary is holding an expanded meeting of the Shanghai Standing Committee today to discuss the large-scale public security chaos that has occurred in Shanghai in the past few days. After a full and democratic discussion, the meeting has decided on the handling of the public security rectification in Shanghai. We have decided to carry out a special sorting out of the public security situation in Shanghai in the next few days. The specific handling opinions are as follows. At this time, Shanghai satellite TV was replaying the daily Shanghai news. In the eyes of some young people, this might be a boring TV program, but when Gahan saw this, he stopped changing the channel. Instead, he started to watch the entire news seriously, not even letting go of some of the details on the TV screen. It was not until this news finished and the entertainment news shifted to a certain celebrity who might have gone to the United States to get pregnant that Gahan suddenly turned off the TV. Strange. Gahan rubbed his chin and thought for a while. Then, he immediately jumped up from the sofa and ran to the villa's computer. After typing a few words, he began to frantically search for news on the internet. As a result, the more Gahan looked, the more shocked he became. Finally, he slapped the computer table and shouted excitedly, "Found it!" Early in the morning, at the entrance of the villa in the first courtyard of the Provincial Party Committee, which was the most discussed topic on Shanghai's government forum, a few people suddenly fell from the sky. The surrounding guards were shocked and immediately pulled out their police guns. In the end, before they could open fire, they were sent flying more than 10 meters away by an invisible airflow. They fell unconscious on spot. The people who appeared on the guardrail were naturally Gahan and his sword lady. He didn't know if everyone had noticed a detail. Ever since Gahan came to this world, he had at most knocked out the police officers. He had never killed a police officer, even if they were just illusions derived from the illusion. Open. With a swing of Gahan's sword chi, the tightly closed door of the first courtyard was directly blasted open by Gahan. Gahan left with his sword lady and walked into the most mysterious house in Shanghai. You terrorists, just like what the secretary said, actually dare to cause trouble here. Arrest all of them. Suddenly, the lights in the room were turned on. Countless police officers rushed out from all corners of the house. Hundreds of black muzzles were aimed at Gahan and the others at the same time. Lady Jueshian, since you have recovered your memory, you should understand that these illusions of mortals can't do any harm to me. If you let them stay here, they will only die. Gahan did not care about these police officers at all. Instead, he shouted at the second floor of the villa. When these police officers heard Gahan say that they were only going to die, they immediately felt a little angry. However, when they saw these terrorists clearly, they were very surprised in their hearts. Most of these terrorists were actually women, and extremely beautiful women at that. In the middle of these beautiful women, there was a man who was surrounded and protected like a star. He seemed to be the master of these women. This made the police officers very unhappy. What was wrong with the world now? Why were the bad people's lives so free and easy? Just as the police officers who were very unhappy were about to open fire and teach these terrorists a lesson, a police officer suddenly saw a familiar figure among them and screamed, "Captain Chow, why are you here?" "Oh, it's Little Song. Didn't you tell me that you have something to do tonight and can't work overtime?" Etian looked in the direction of the voice and found that the person who was talking to him was actually a criminal police officer under him. Moreover, it was an elite criminal police officer who could shoot 10 times at a distance of 50 meters. "Captain Chow. It's actually Captain Chow." The other police officers also recognized Etian. What a joke! Etian was a legendary figure in the police world of Shanghai. He was an expert in solving cases, and there was a high possibility that he would take over as the director of Shanghai's Public Security Bureau. Why was he mixed with terrorists and attacked the house of the municipal party secretary? This was simply making these criminal police officers feel like their worldview was going to explode. "Hey, what are you guys still doing here? Get rid of all these police officers so that Jueshian doesn't run away again. This city is so big, and it's also Jueshian's territory. If she runs away, I guarantee that you guys won't be able to find her." Xian Yuan urged impatiently. "That's right, we might as well kill all these police officers. It's just an illusion anyway." Zhu Xian nodded and said. At the same time, the dagger in his hand trembled slightly, looking like he was about to attack. "No, you can't." Seeing this scene, Etian suddenly jumped out and blocked in front of Xian Yuan and Zhu Xian. "They're all my subordinates. I can't let them die in our hands." "Etian, have you lost your mind? You know that this is all an illusion. They aren't real life. Killing them is just like popping a soap bubble." Xian Yuan said in confusion. "I don't care if they are illusions or not. In my memory, they're my brothers who have gone through life and death with me. Even if they are illusions, I will not let them die in my hands. Do you understand how I feel?" Etian shouted. "You know Etian's personality, so you're trying to use these people to stall for time?" Gohan looked at the densely packed police officers. These police officers were probably also worried about Etian, so they didn't pull the trigger in their hands. "Sigh." Gohan sighed, then clapped his hands and said, "I can understand how Etian feels. How about this? You guys slowly deal with these police officers. Be careful not to kill them, just knock them out. As for Jueshian, leave it to me." "Gohan, won't this be dangerous?" "Maybe this is Jueshian's intention. He wants to temporarily separate you from us," Shi Jian said with some worry. "It's fine. At most, I'll be kicked out. It's no big deal." After speaking, Gohan picked up Zhu Xian and returned her to the body of the sword. Then, he flew up to the second floor. Open fire. These police officers were worried about Etion, but definitely not Gahan. When they saw Gahan come out, they immediately shot at Gahan's head. However, what kind of person was Gahan? The Zhu Xian sword in his hand was impenetrable. These bullets couldn't hurt Gahan at all. At the same time, the sword maidens in the hall spread out in all directions. They rushed into the crowd of police officers and started a hand-to-hand fight with them. During the hand-to-hand fight, the police officers didn't dare to open fire. They were surrounded by their colleagues. If they fired a bullet, they might accidentally kill their brothers. So, the police officers who were entangled by the sword maidens could only put their pistols aside and started a hand-to-hand fight with the sword maidens. As a result, the whole situation became chaotic. No one noticed Gahan, who was the first to fly up to the second floor. Gahan quickly went from the second floor to the third floor. There were many rooms on the third floor, but most of the doors were closed. Only one room's door was open. Gahan walked directly through the door and saw a person in a chiffon bra lying lazily on the bed. She was holding a hardcover novel in her hand. Her two slender white legs were crossed together. Her smooth skin was especially attractive. Under this thin gauze undergarment, this person's body was completely empty. Gahan could even clearly see the two red cherries and the pitch-black forest through the thin gauze undergarment. Big sister told me that you're a black-bellied and heartless person. It seems that she was wrong today. You should be an indecisive and soft-hearted person. Seeing Gahan appear in the room, the person wasn't surprised at all. She only mocked him. I have to be heartless to my enemies. But be it Etion or these police officers, they're not my enemies. Why would I do such a heartless thing? Gahan pursed his lips. The person in front of him looked exactly like the Zhu Xian sword. It was as if they were carved from the same mold. From this, it could be inferred that this person was undoubtedly Lady Juetian. He had finally found this well-hidden person after going through so much trouble. Who would have thought that the person in charge of Shanghai, the secretary of Shanghai's municipal committee, was actually Lady Juetian? Celestial Bane has already contacted you. Gahan recalled that Juetian had mentioned Celestial Bane and asked curiously, if Zhu Xian had already contacted Juetian, why didn't they tell him where Juetian was? Not really. It's just that my big sister and I are one. When she entered this world, she woke me up. I checked her memories and found out everything. Juetian explained with a smile. So, you're the one who arranged the identities of the sword ladies and the others in this world. Gahan's eyes lit up. I'm not interested in your other sword ladies. Their identities were randomly arranged by this world. I only interfered with the arrangements of two of them. Juetian raised two fingers. Zhu Xian and Xin Yuan? Gahan said as if he suddenly realized something. Bingo. Sister Zhu Xian and that little b** TCH Xin Yuan are a lesbian couple. Isn't that interesting? You don't know this, but I've been secretly observing them. Looking at the two of them together and recalling the scenes of them fighting to the death in the past, I almost died of laughter. This is really too funny. If only sister trapping a mortal and sister killing a mortal were here, then they could share my happiness. Juetian laughed loudly, his face full of joy from playing a prank. I think if your big sister knew that you did something behind her back, she would not let you live a good life. Gahan said, pouring cold water on him. That's for the future. We'll talk about it later. Right now, I just want to know, how did you know I was here? You shouldn't have been able to find any clues. Juetian put down the novel in his hand. Gahan glanced at it and realized that the novel was called Sword Lady. Didn't you already guess that we would find you? Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many policemen in the villa, Gahan said lightly. I only transferred these policemen over as a precaution. I didn't think that you had the ability to find this place, but it seems that I miscalculated. Juetian smiled faintly. Tell me, how did you find me? It was a news program. Gahan said. News program? That's right. I watched the rebroadcast of Shanghai News tonight. As a result, I found that although this news was about the Shanghai Municipal Party Committee meeting, as the main character of the meeting, the Shanghai Municipal Party Committee secretary never appeared on camera. Whenever the camera wanted to skip the chairman's position, it would deliberately cut down, thus omitting it. In this 3-minute-long news, as the protagonist, the party secretary of the municipal party committee, doesn't even show his face. Not even a part of his body is shown. This is too strange. The party secretaries of other provinces and cities don't have such a hobby. And in the press release, they only addressed you as the municipal party committee secretary, not in the format of municipal party committee secretary plus name. This is also extremely abnormal. After watching the news, I went online to look up a lot of information. In the end, I found that the name and photo of the Shanghai Municipal Party Committee Secretary couldn't be found on the entire internet. It was as if this person didn't exist at all. Even Baidu Encyclopedia wasn't established. The only person who could do this is you, who controlled this illusion. Only you would hide your identity like this. I see. I didn't expect to fall here. You are really as smart as my sister said. Zhu Xian sword nodded, then got up from the bed and walked elegantly to Gahan. He wrapped his hands around Gahan's neck, and his body was very close to Gahan. The closest place was less than a centimeter away. Gahan could even feel the heat emitted from the two cherries. I know why you're looking for me. You want me to become your sword lady, right? Zhu Xian's sword's tongue licked Gahan's face. This lick didn't have the slightest hint of ambiguity. It felt more like he was tasting Gahan's taste. Let's make a bet. If you win, I'll go out with you. If you lose, you give up on my sister and let her stay in this illusion with me. Chapter 1228. Bet? What bet? As soon as Gahan's voice fell, hurried footsteps came from the door, followed by Gahan's sword maidens. Seeing Zhu Xian hugging her man so ambiguously, Qiyu and Jian couldn't help but feel jealous. She rushed forward to push Zhu Xian away. Unexpectedly, someone was one step ahead of her. Xian Yuan's sword appeared first and pushed Zhu Xian onto the bed. You bastard swordswoman. You were the one who arranged everything between me and Zhu Xian. Xuan Yuan's intelligence actually worked, and he guessed that Zhu Xian was the mastermind. Hey, Mr. Gahan and I were having a good discussion. Why did you come out to disturb us? Zhu Xian rolled her eyes at Xian Yuan, then looked at Gahan again. Mr. Gahan, what do you think? Do you want to make a bet? All right, let's bet. Gahan nodded. To be honest, this illusion was controlled by Zhu Xian. Zhu Xian had the absolute home field advantage, and he had no idea how to bring Zhu Xian out of this illusion. Moreover, it was almost 6 in the morning. When the illusion ended, Gahan would no longer have a chance, so he could only take the risk and gamble with Zhu Xian. Good. Bring her here. As soon as Celestial Extinguishing Sword's voice fell, a small door in the room opened. 2 maids in maid attire escorted a young girl who was tightly tied up with a rope into the room. Seeing the young girl, Qing Bin suddenly let out a scream, her face filled with fear. She instinctively jumped into Gahan's arms, trembling in fear. You lunatic! You actually captured her. Xian Yuan also let out a sound of shock. Zhu Xian's face was solemn, and the rest of the sword maidens were dumbfounded. They had no idea what was so special about this young girl that caused such a reaction from Qing Bin, Zhu Xian, and Xian Yuan's sword. Hey, we're all old friends, good sisters. There's nothing for me to be afraid of. Zhu Xian smiled, then looked at Gahan. So do you know this guy? I know him. Gahan nodded solemnly. Gahan, of course, knew this girl. This girl was Qing Pin's girl form, and also the hidden danger that Gahan was most afraid of. He didn't expect that she would also come to this illusion, but when she thought about it carefully, it was to be expected. Qing Pin and her girl form shared the same body, so it was not strange that their souls would come to this illusion at the same time. It was just that Gahan had forgotten about this for a while, so he didn't take the initiative to look for the young girl, Qing Pin. TSK, you don't know, but when I found out that she was here, I was really shocked. The 3 of us haven't seen each other for more than 300,000 years. I didn't expect to meet him in such a place. I'm afraid that even Tong Tian couldn't predict this move. You're crazy. You actually called out that person's name. The Xian Yuan sword was startled when it heard the immortal slashing sword call out Tong Tian's name. What are you afraid of? This is my illusion. He won't be able to detect it. Besides, When the four of us rebelled, Tong Tian's injuries weren't any lighter than ours. It's still unknown whether he has the strength to take revenge on us now. It's better to be careful. The immortal slashing sword sighed and said, besides, from the fact that Qingping came into being, we can see that the old master's strength should have recovered a lot. Otherwise, how could Qingping have the ability to reveal her true body? Hey, sister, don't scare me. According to what you said, the four of us are dead meat. The immortal slashing sword said in shock. You don't have to pretend anymore. Since you've already shared my memory, you should know why I'm here. Since we've started this era, it's also necessary to end this era. What we didn't finish back, then will be finished by our hands. This is our last chance. If we miss this chance, we can only return to Hongming. So, sister, you chose this man? The immortal slashing sword looked at Gahan. Did I make the wrong choice? Guhan, no matter if it is his strength, his temperament, his bloodline, or the person behind him, he is the best choice for us. Other than Guhan, we have no other choice. He's our last chance. You should know this better than I do. The immortal slashing sword said calmly. But sister, don't forget that he's also the person chosen by the old master, Tong Tian. If we don't handle it well, he might become our enemy in the future. The immortal slashing sword's expression changed and said with extreme caution, isn't this interesting? Both sides have chosen the same person. This is our only chance of survival. After all, the old master, Tong Tian, is still recuperating. However, we can already make preparations in advance. The immortal slashing sword also looked at Guhan's body. We're his sword maidens. Once this fact is confirmed, even the old master can't do anything about it. This is our only chance of winning. Sai, if it's possible, I really want to wag my tail and beg the old master. I might as well become his primordial cardinal treasure again. If this world is destroyed, then so be it. What does that have to do with us? It's better than being like this. Not only do we have to live in fear, we also have to fight a battle that has almost no chance of winning. Look at what happened to sister trapping a mortal and sister killing a mortal. Since we've chosen the path back then, there's no medicine for regret. We can't escape this fate. The immortal slashing sword sighed. Sister Juexian, stop fooling around. Come with us. This is the only way out for us four sisters. TCH, if I didn't want to go with you, I could have escaped to any corner of this city before you arrived. Why would I wait for you in this house? Juexian curled her lips. But I'm still the immortal slashing sword of the four immortal slashing swords, one of the primordial cardinal treasures. How can I be so shameful and follow this man? I've already said that as long as he completes the bet, I'll leave with you. Otherwise, I'll continue to live in this illusion. In any case, one day in this illusion can be used as 12 days. It's very enjoyable. Gahan, what are they talking about? I don't understand a single word. Chi-Chi tugged at Gahan's sleeve and asked curiously. They're talking about something very important. Gahan took a deep breath. Although I don't really understand, the four of them seem to be involved in the fate of the entire world. Why do I feel that the birth and appearance of the Great Apocalypse is due to these four swords, Tong Tian, and the Qingping sword? What? You're trying to scare me. Chi-Chi was also shocked. This matter sounded too frightening. Master, after ending its conversation with its sister, the immortal slashing sword walked to Gahan's side and looked at Gahan deeply. Then it said, Master, there are some things that are not yet the time to say. Master, it's good that you heard what I said just now. You can think about it in secret, but after you leave this illusion, you must not talk about it to anyone, especially the name Tong Tian. Otherwise, there will be a heavenly Tao in the unseen world. You will encounter unimaginable danger. I understand. Guhan nodded and looked at Juexian. Tell me, what do you want me to do? It's very simple. The immortal slashing sword spread its hands. Defeat her. You can choose any of the sword maidens here. As long as you can defeat her before the reincarnation cycle of this world, I'll be yours. As soon as the immortal slashing sword finished speaking, the rope that was tied around the young girl's body fell. Then, the immortal slashing sword's finger lightly touched the young girl's forehead. The young girl, who had been at a loss just a moment ago, instantly regained her senses. She jumped up from the ground like an agile rabbit and looked at the surrounding sword maidens vigilantly. Immortal slashing sword. It's you. The young girl, Qingpin, was the first to see the immortal slashing sword beside her. Then, she saw the immortal slashing sword and screamed again. When she finally saw the Xinyuan sword, the young girl, Qingpin, had calmed down and did not scream anymore. Instead, when she saw Gahan, her face revealed a look of disbelief. She pointed at the immortal slashing sword's nose and said, "Crazy. You four sisters are crazy. Do you still want to fight? Don't you know that when Master comes out of seclusion, the whole world will be destroyed? You actually have the guts to fight Master. Could it be that if we don't fight, Master will let us go?" The immortal slashing sword snorted coldly. "Qingping, I advise you not to help the evildoer. If you stand on our side, it will also be of great benefit to you." I, Qingping, am not that stupid to join the side that is bound to lose," Qingping said disdainfully. "Don't deceive yourself. When a world is destroyed, the primordial cardinal treasures that were born with this world will also return to the primordial cardinal treasures. Even if you stand on his side and hug his thigh, you will not be able to avoid death." The immortal slashing sword said indifferently, "Nonsense. Master promised me. He will bring me through this reincarnation. The only ones who will perish together with me are you traitors." Qingping shrieked. Her voice was so sharp that it pierced through everyone's eardrums. "Don't lie to yourself. Your voice has already revealed the panic in your heart. The four of us know better than you what kind of person sect leader Tong Tian is. Otherwise, we would not have betrayed this old master who has followed us for millions of years." The immortal slashing sword sighed. "Come with us. Only then will you have a chance of survival. The chance you are talking about is him." Qingping pointed at Gohan's nose. "Do you need me to tell you who he is? He is a chess piece set by the old master. From the moment he was born, he was the old master's weapon. You are actually counting on this person to win a chance of survival. You are too ridiculous. Life is death, and death is life. Life is death, and death is life. Death and life are intertwined. The reversal of life might result in death, and the reversal of death might also result in life. In fact, this person has already deviated from the path of Tong Tian. Otherwise, Gu Xuanwu wouldn't have left, I Ching wouldn't have appeared, and Artoria would still be King Arthur. I'm afraid these things are not part of Tong Tian's plan." A joyful smile appeared on Xuan Yuan's face. Suddenly, she thought of something and patted her head with a smile. "By the way, the biggest surprise is this little guy, Qingpin. You didn't expect that you have already broken away from sect leader Tong Tian's plan, right? You?" The expression on Qingping's face changed several times in an instant. She even faintly showed signs of being persuaded by the immortal slashing sword dynasty. However, Qingping's face finally calmed down. She recovered her calm expression and said faintly, "The path has been chosen. Let's see who will reach the end first. Tell me, what do you plan to do now? Kill me? But I have to tell you, if I die, that little idiot will also die with me. We are originally one." "No." Hearing Qingping's words, Gohan let out a low roar and instinctively hugged Qingpin tightly in his arms. He could not let his most beloved cute guy die. "Huh." Qingping laughed. Seeing Gohan's expression, she was even more relieved. "Then you guys can fight." Celestial Extinguishing Sword smiled and said, "This is also my dreamland. I will be the judge. You fight with Gohan. If you win, I will let you out. But if you lose, you will stay in this dreamland with me for a few hundred reincarnations. How about that?" Strange, the stakes that the Celestial Extinguishing Sword had mentioned to Qingping seemed to be in conflict with the stakes that she had agreed on with Guhan. If Guhan had won, he would have taken the Celestial Extinguishing Sword and left. How could he have accompanied the Qingping sword through hundreds of reincarnations in the illusion realm? Forget it. It seems that Celestial Extinguishing Sword won't lie to me. Perhaps she has her own considerations. Gohan thought for a moment and decided to keep his mouth shut, so as not to ruin Celestial Extinguishing Sword's plan. All right, Qingping nodded in agreement. But there is one thing I must say. I can't use any power in your dreamland. You either let go of my power or restrict his. There's no need to go through so much trouble. Celestial Extinguishing Sword shook its head. If you use the Sword of Severing Tao, even Gahan won't be a match for you. So I will simply seal all your powers and let you return to the level of an ordinary person. Then, we will use pure swordsmanship to determine the winner. Using pure swordsmanship, Qingping seemed to be a little hesitant. What? Qingping Sword Lady, who suppresses everywhere in our GS school, doesn't even have the courage to compete with an ordinary person in his 20s? Xian Yuan's sword said sarcastically. Let's compete then. How can I, a Khanate cardinal treasure, lose to an ordinary person? Qingping Sword's expression turned cold as she agreed to this request. However, she turned to Xian Yuan's sword and said, My sword is with that little fool. How about I borrow your body? This. Xian Yuan's sword rolled its eyes and pondered for a while with some difficulty. Finally, it sighed and said, All right, who asked me to be afraid of you? With that, Xian Yuan's sword transformed into its sword form and landed in Qingping's hand. I still have the Celestial Slaying Sword and the Celestial Extinguishing Sword here. Choose one. I won't take advantage of you with my sword. Qingping said as she pointed the Xian Yuan's sword at Gohan's head. Mr. Gohan, between me and my sister, who are you going to choose? The Celestial Extinguishing Sword hugged its sister's arm and asked Gohan coquettishly. At the same time, it naughtily cupped its sister's breasts, as if it was using its sister's breast to entice Gohan to choose it. The Celestial Slaying Sword didn't say anything, as if it had already tacitly agreed to let its sister play with its body. No, since it's a battle with Miss Qingping, it's better to use this sword. Gohan waved his hand and rejected the Celestial Slaying Sword and the Celestial Extinguishing Sword. Then, he carried Qingping, who was hiding in his arms and trembling in fear, out. No, I'm scared. The moment Gohan poured it out, Qingping was so scared that it wanted to hide again. Qingping, oh Qingping. Gohan gently stroked Qingping's long hair. Look, from today onwards, I will be your courage. You must remember, I am your sword wielder, and you are my sword mistress. I won't let you have any more fear. With that, Gohan grabbed Qingping's neck. Qingping's body stiffened, and then it instantly transformed into Qingping's sword. Swish, swish, swish. Gohan brandished his sword and finally faced the Xian Yuan sword in Qingping's hand. He said indifferently, I will let you know who the real Qingping is. Chapter 1229. How could this be? Looking at Qingping, who had been knocked to the ground by his sword, Gohan felt a little incredulous. In less than a minute, Qingping had been knocked to the ground by him. If he had not been merciful just now, Qingping's throat would probably have been slit by him. This caught Gohan off guard. Gohan had thought that he would have a fierce battle with Qingping. At the very least, he would only be able to defeat Qingping when both of them were injured. Even Gohan was prepared to be defeated by Qingping. After all, from the conversation between the three of them just now, he knew that Qingping, like the four immortal vanquishing swords, was once the sword of a super powerful big boss, Grandmaster Tong Tian. Gohan had thought that Qingping's swordsmanship should at least reach the realm of rules. But Gohan had never imagined that Qingping's swordsmanship was only so. By the way, after Gohan came to this world, in addition to conquering his own sword mistress, he had also gone to the bookstore and bought a lot of books. It should be known that in the future of the culture destruction, every book before the destruction was precious, especially the Investiture of the Gods, which was the focus of Gohan's attention. And Gohan had indeed found a complete set of the Investiture of the Gods novel in the bookstore. Unfortunately, when Gohan flipped through these books, he was surprised to find that all the books only had empty covers, and the inside of the books were all blank sheets of paper. The other humans in the illusion did not care about this at all, as if they were looking at books full of words. Of course, it was not completely without gain. At the very least, Gahan did not know much about the ancient times before the destruction, which was the era of the Celestial Empire. When he returned to reality, he could basically crush any expert professor who specialized in the study of the history of the Celestial Empire. When did your swordsmanship enter the realm of rules? Qing Ping struggled to get up from the ground and looked at Guhan with some fear in her eyes. She had never imagined that this man, who had just become a swordsman a few years ago, had already practiced his swordsmanship to the point where he could comprehend the laws. This was too terrifying. It really is the realm of rules. On the other side, Zhu Xian's mouth was so wide open that an apple could almost fit inside. She knew from Celestial Bane's memories that Guhan's swordsmanship had reached the realm of rules. However, this was merely knowing. From the bottom of her heart, she still did not believe that Gahan could reach such a level. It was only when she personally witnessed Gahan using sword techniques with rules that she had no choice but to admit this fact. What surprised me was you, Miss Qingping. You are unexpectedly weak. Gahan said indifferently. You? Qingping was so angry that her face turned red. She retorted loudly. I'm a sword maiden who's not good at swordsmanship. I'm a sword maiden that Master uses to carry the Tao. Otherwise, if you let me use the Sever Tao, I guarantee that you won't live for more than 10 seconds. Sigh. To be fair, although Qingping's swordsmanship is the worst among the 5 of us, she's still an expert in swordsmanship that only appears once in 100 years outside. You can only blame yourself for being a little too abnormal. Not only have you entered the realm of rules, but you've also used sword techniques in the realm of rules right from the start. Under rules, everyone is an ant. It's already very impressive that Qingping was able to hold out for a minute. Zhu Xian tried to smooth things over. However, what she said was very reasonable, and it was the truth. Because Gahan was very afraid of Qingping, he used his strongest move right from the start. He was not like those Ultraman who had to wait until the last moment to use their ultimate move. It was not like he was looking for trouble. Qingping, you lost the bet. You've already lost. Don't tell me you've forgotten what you promised me. Zhu Xian suddenly revealed her fox's tail. She moved closer to Qingping and said slyly, You promised me that you would accompany me through 100 reincarnations here. Don't even think about it. Unexpectedly, Qingping turned hostile and pushed Zhu Xian away with a slap. At the same time, countless streams of air swirled around the surface of her body, and her entire temperament changed in an instant. Her entire body was filled with an extremely sharp killing intent. Under the effect of this killing intent, the various types of furniture in the room were sliced open, and in the end, the entire furniture was turned into a pile of debris. She was actually able to do this with just her killing intent. From this, it could be seen how terrifying Qingping was at this moment. Qingping, you actually used Intercept Tao. You've broken your promise. Don't you want your face anymore? Zhu Xian loudly scolded when she saw Qingping's state. Get lost. Qingping, have not lost yet. I will not lose to a mortal. Qingping's face revealed a hint of madness. After saying that, Qingping pointed her sword at Gahan's head. I'll give you a chance now. As long as you admit defeat in front of me, I'll let you go. Otherwise, with my Intercept Tao, even if the 2 of them join forces, they won't be able to defeat me. Gahan, you'd better listen to her and admit defeat. Right now, you're not a match for Intercept Tao. Zhu Xian anxiously moved to Gahan's side to persuade him. For Zhu Xian to say such words, it was clear that this Intercept Tao was no joke. What's there to be afraid of? It's good to fight. After all, this is my world. Even if Gahan dies, I can still resurrect him. It's no big deal. Zhu Xian also moved over and said. However, this didn't sound right. It was as if Zhu Xian had already tacitly agreed that Gahan would lose. Return my power to me. Gahan sighed and said to Zhu Xian, who was beside him, What? Do you really want to fight with Qingping, who has thrown away her face and used Intercept Tao? You're making a big joke. Zhu Xian covered his mouth and laughed. At the same time, he gently wiped his finger on Gahan's buttocks. The previously sealed sword essence instantly returned to Gahan's body. Gohan once again changed from an ordinary person to a spirit sword-level sword wielder. Fine, let him fight. Knowing the power of intercept Dao in advance, when he faces sect leader Tong Tian in the future, he won't be beaten into a fool. Zhu Xian sighed and no longer tried to stop Gohan. Use me. Right now, Qing Bin is not a match for Xin Yuan's sword. If you use me, you still have the power to fight. Zhu Xian took the initiative to transform into a sword form and floated in front of Gohan, trying to make Gohan use him in the fight. Sorry, this is Qing Pin's fight. Gohan pushed away Zhu Xian in front of him and slowly walked toward Qing Ping with Qing Pin in his hand. Ignorant person, do you think you could be a match for me when I use Intercept Dao? Qing Ping held Xin Yuan's sword horizontally in front of her. A white lotus with 24 petals floated out of Qing Ping's body and floated quietly, as if it was a world of its own. Oh my God, the 12th grade golden lotus of fate, the 12th grade golden lotus of hellfire, the 12th grade golden lotus of virtue. Is sect leader Tong Tian trying to fuse the golden lotus of creation again? Seeing the white lotus with 24 petals floating out of Qing Ping's body, Zhu Xian said with a look of horror on his face. This is expected. Without the 36th grade golden lotus of creation, sect leader Tong Tian would not have such an idea. Zhu Xian seemed to have expected this, but he was very cautious when looking at the 24 petals white lotus. The 36th grade golden lotus of creation has been reborn into 24 petals. The day of sect leader Tong Tian's return is not far. Once all 36 petals return, I'm afraid it will be the day of sect leader Tong Tian's return. Then let's destroy this 24 petals lotus now. Zhu Xian said eagerly as he turned his wrist. No, this lotus, Qing Ping, and Qing Bin are one. If you destroy this lotus, you will destroy Qing Pin. He will fight you to the death. Zhu Xian said as he pressed Zhu Xian's wrist. Let's fight him to the death. We two sisters will join hands. He can't beat us. Zhu Xian said proudly. Perhaps he is indeed no match for us, but destroying this lotus will only delay the time of sect leader Tong Tian's return. After 1,000 years, where can we find a second Gohan to be sect leader Tong Tian's opponent? Zhu Xian said. So, are we just going to watch Tong Tian recover his strength? Zhu Xian was still unwilling to accept the outcome. I said, this is our last battle with sect leader Tong Tian. If he doesn't recover his strength, how can he come out and fight us? This battle will happen sooner or later. It's better to fight sooner rather than later. The earlier it ends, the better. In the end, Zhu Xian persuaded Zhu Xian to give up on destroying the unformed 36 petals of the golden lotus of creation. Gohan, I don't want to hurt you. It's not too late for you to surrender now. Otherwise, once my petals fall, you will become worse than a dog. Qing Ping said. Unfortunately, Gohan ignored her and continued to walk toward Qing Ping. Then don't blame me, Qing Ping said with her cherry lips. Intercept. Vision. A white petal floated down from the lotus and flew toward Gohan's forehead. Seeing this petal, Gohan's pupils shrank. In an instant, he had thought of thousands of ways to avoid this petal. However, when Gohan tried to avoid it, he realized that none of the ways would work. This was simply an unavoidable petal. Cut. In the end, Gohan decided to use the blade of his sword to cut the petal. However, when Gohan's Qing Pin sword came into contact with the petal actually melted into the body of the Qing Pin sword. Idiot. He's using the Qing Pin sword to attack the petal. Doesn't he know that the Qing Pin sword and the petal are one? Zhu Xian stomped his feet anxiously when he saw Gohan's actions. I should have tried to dissuade him and let him use me to fight. Unfortunately, it's too late, Celestial Bane said regretfully as his heart sank. It was indeed too late. When the petal melted into the Qing Pin sword, Gohan felt his vision go black. It was as if someone had turned on a lamp. The entire world turned dark, and he could no longer see any light. You deprive me of my sight. Gohan was not an idiot. He recalled Qing Ping's intercept, vision, and realized that Qing Ping's intercept Dao was probably intercepting the opponent's five senses, or even more than the five senses. Let's finish this quickly. I have to get rid of her before she intercepts more of my abilities. Gahan was shocked. He no longer dared to underestimate her. He ran as fast as he could. At the same time, countless sword chi gushed out of the Qingping's sword and slashed at Qingping's body. Another petal of severed chi floated down. The sword chi that was like a ferocious tiger disappeared without a trace in an instant, as if it had never existed. She can even intercept sword chi. Guhan was even more shocked in his heart. It could even intercept the sword chi that had already been released. This Dao interception was really terrifying to the extreme. That's right, Gahan did not have much time to think. Although he could not see, Gahan knew that he was already very close to Qingping. He had to quickly defeat his opponent before Qingping intercepted more of his abilities. Intercept. Void. Qingping snorted coldly. Another petal fell. Guhan's sword that could have slashed at his opponent missed. Gahan could not see what was happening, but the other sword ladies could see it clearly. Qingping was clearly standing in front of Gahan, but no matter how Gahan attacked, he could not hurt her. Amazing. She can even intercept the void. Zhu Xian exclaimed in admiration. She had already realized that Qingping had cut off the space at her location. Now, Guhan and her opponent were separated by a mirror. Of course, it was impossible for her to attack Qingping in the mirror. Intercept. Listen. Another white lotus petal floated down and fused with the solid cold body. This time, Gahan found that he had lost his sense of hearing. He could no longer hear anything from the outside. Intercept. Touch. Qingping continued to deprive Gahan of his various abilities. This time, it was Gahan's turn to lose his sense of touch. Gahan could no longer sense anything through any part of his body. Intercept. Defend. The eighth petal fell. Gahan lost control of his limbs again. No part of his body responded to Gahan's commands. At this time, Gahan, who had lost his four basic abilities of sight, hearing, touch, and defense, seemed to have become a prisoner. At this time, no matter how good Gahan's swordsmanship was, it was useless. Gahan had lost all control of his body. Right now, Gahan was like a piece of meat thrown on a chopping board. He lay on the ground motionlessly, without any reaction. Gahan, Qijian, who was watching the battle from the side, could no longer suppress his worry and impulsiveness. He rushed to Gahan's side and shook Gahan's body with all his might, trying to make his man recover. But it was useless. Gahan was still like a piece of dead meat. Big brother, Douyu pinched Gahan's nose. If it was in the past, Gahan would definitely pinch his nose instead. But now Gahan did nothing. This idiot, it's good that he admitted defeat. Itian also walked to Gahan's side. Although he didn't rub Gahan's body like Qi Dian and Douyu, and although he mocked him without holding back, the worry on his face couldn't be concealed. I'm going to kill you. Juzi's reaction was a little more direct. He picked up his Juzi sword and planned to fight to the death with Qingping. However, he was quickly blocked by Zhu Xian. Stop shaking. It's useless. Gahan can't do anything now. Shi Shui said faintly. She was the first victim of the interception. She had also experienced the feeling of Guhan at this moment. She clearly knew how terrible and terrifying this experience was. You can admit defeat now. Although he had lost his five senses, Qingping's voice could still be transmitted to Gahan's consciousness. No, I will defeat you. Although he had become a piece of dead meat, Gahan was still Gahan. Chapter 1230. The Qingping sword in Gahan's hand suddenly flew up and floated weakly in the air. It made a slashing motion towards where Qingping was standing. Even though Gahan had lost his five senses, Gahan could still use the sword essence in his body to control the Qingping sword to attack. However, such an attack was too weak and pathetic. You're courting death. Qingping's expression became even more furious. She seemed to be unable to accept that the current Gahan still had the will to resist her. Just like in a movie Kung Fu, Zhou Xingqian, whose head was buried in the ground, still picked up a piece of wood and hit the fire cloud heretic god's bald head in the face of his threat. Although this piece of wood couldn't cause any harm to the fire cloud heretic god, the unyielding resistance still made the fire cloud heretic god feel the most furious he had ever been in his life. This was because he knew that this was an opponent that he didn't know how to truly defeat and make him submit. At this moment, the white lotus floating in front of Qingping's sword dropped its petals again. However, it wasn't just one petal this time, but a total of 6 petals. Previously, Qingping had only needed to use one petal to cut off vision, hearing, and the void. But now, she had used 6 petals in one go. From this, it could be seen that the power she used this time was even more terrifying. Intercept sword essence. Qingping's sword said in a low voice. She had never expected that Qingping's sword would target the sword essence. The sword essence in Guhan's body was enormous. If she wanted to intercept the sword essence in Guhan's body, she would naturally need a great deal of power. This explained why she had used up 6 petals. As the 6 petals fell, Guhan completely lost contact with the sword essence in his body. Not even the slightest bit of connection. He couldn't even sense his purple mansion or the sword mark. Guhan was like a human trapped in a black hole. He no longer had anything to do with this world. Just admit defeat. Qingping's voice suddenly appeared in front of Guhan in the black hole. She looked at Guhan, who was trapped in her body, and her face was full of pride. If you admit defeat now, I'll let you out. Qingping's voice was extremely enticing. Do you think you're too pathetic? Looking at Qingping, who had appeared in his consciousness, Guhan did not feel the slightest bit of fear, nor did he shrink back. All he felt was disdain. Is this your power? I'm afraid not. This should be your old master's power. As far as you're concerned, you're just a defeated opponent of mine. Guhan smiled. He smiled very happily. Even if you live for another 3 million years, you still won't be able to compete with me, a human who has only lived for 21 years. Bastard. Qingping was infuriated by Guhan's mockery, and her consciousness returned to her body. At the same time, the white lotus in front of her chest started to spin rapidly, and Qingping shouted angrily, "Good! Since your swordsmanship is awesome, I'll make sure that you won't be able to use any swordsmanship for the rest of your life." Sever sword. This time, Qingping actually planned to directly cut off Guhan's swordsmanship. At that moment, the entire lotus had already lost 14 petals, and only 10 petals were left on the lotus head. However, as Qingping gave the order, the remaining 10 petals fell one after another. Qingping used up all the remaining petals in one go to achieve this order. My swordsmanship. Guhan, who was trapped in his sea of consciousness, had a stiff expression. Then, he felt that a part of his soul seemed to have been lost. When he tried to recall what he had lost, he could not recall it no matter what. Why am I here? Who am I? What am I? What mother? What is that? Endless questions surged in Guhan's consciousness. In Guhan's memory, all memories related to the sword had disappeared, be it words, voice, image, or swordsmanship. All memories were gone. There is no such thing as a sword in Guhan's memory. Ha 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 ha! I've won. How can you be a match for the severed Tao? The severed Tao is invincible. Invincible. Looking at Guhan's dazed state, Qingping laughed as if she had already won the world. Enough. Qingping, you've already won. I represent Guhan in admitting defeat. Let him out. Although he had already anticipated this scene, Zhu Xian still couldn't bear to see it happen. He immediately tried to persuade Qingping. Didn't he not admit defeat? Then let him continue like this. After all, this is your illusion. Even if he doesn't eat anything, he can still live. He's just a vegetable. Qingping pouted. Forget it, don't beg her. Sister Zhu Xian, hurry up and push our consciousness out of the illusion. Once we're out of the illusion, we'll be fine. Qi Jian said angrily. No. Zhu Xian's face showed an awkward expression. The Severed Tao's power is based on the power of the rules. Even if we leave the illusion, the power of the rules will still exist. What do you mean? Hearing Zhu Xian's words, Qi Jian had a bad feeling. What I mean is, if Qingping doesn't remove the Severed Tao, Guhan will continue like this, even if he returns to the real world. Zhu Xian answered for Zhu Xian. How could this be? All the sword maidens in the surroundings revealed expressions of horror. Was Guhan really going to be a living dead person forever? At that moment, Qing Pin, who was floating in the air, suddenly exploded with a bang. Then, he turned into a cloud of green smoke that enveloped Guhan's body. Finally, he completely disappeared into Guhan's body. This is... Zhu Xian's eyes lit up. He exchanged a look with Zhu Xian. Both of them saw the light of hope in each other's eyes. This guy, have you really forgotten who you are? Seeing this, Qing Ping's face showed a hint of worry. Then, this worry quickly disappeared. There's no point in going. He can't touch my power. Guhan? Guhan? Where are you? Guhan. In his own sea of knowledge, time and space seemed to have lost all concept. Guhan didn't know how much time had passed. He only felt that it was extremely long. It was so long that he almost forgot who he was. However, at that moment, Guhan's consciousness suddenly heard a familiar shout. Guhan saw a pitiful little girl moving aimlessly in his sea of knowledge, shouting, "Why are you looking for me?" Guhan instantly appeared in front of the little lowly and looked at her in a daze, revealing a puzzled expression. "Guhan, it's me. I'm your little Qing Pin." Qing Pin hugged Guhan's consciousness and shook Guhan with all her might. She hoped that Guhan would reveal a familiar smile. However, Guhan didn't respond. "Guhan, don't be like this. Guhan." Qing Pin suddenly hugged Guhan and burst into tears. "It's all my fault. Qing Pin is useless. Qing Pin isn't that bad woman's match. Qing Pin doesn't know how to intercept. Qing Pin is a useless trash. Qing Pin is a big trash. Be good, don't cry." Seeing Qing Pin crying, Guhan was extremely panicked. He reached out his hand, wanted to touch Qing Pin's head and call out Qing Pin's name. However, Qing Pin's name was clearly at the tip of his tongue, but Guhan couldn't say it no matter what. "Guhan, do you really not remember what it was like to be poor? Qing Pin is your sword lady." Qing Pin climbed onto Guhan's shoulder with great effort. He pinched Guhan's cheeks and tried hard to make Guhan remember him. "Mother, mother." Guhan kept saying mother, which made Qing Pin anxious. He thought that Guhan thought he was his mother. He immediately shouted, "Guhan, I'm not your mother. I'm your sword lady." Guhan's expression suddenly became extremely terrifying. He wanted to say the word sword, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't say it. A powerful conflict was going on in Guhan's soul. As a result, Guhan's soul, which was originally the size of a normal person, began to expand rapidly. At the same time, veins popped out on the surface of his soul. This was a state where the soul energy in his soul was in a crazy state. At this moment, there were two kinds of power in Guhan's body. One was Guhan's own power, while the other was naturally the power of the golden lotus of creation. One sealed Guhan's memory and 5 senses, while the other tried to break the seal. Naturally, there was a huge conflict between the two. It would be fine if this conflict happened somewhere else, but it happened in Guhan's soul. If Guhan's self won, then Guhan would be able to break the seal of the golden lotus of creation. However, if Guhan's soul failed, it meant that Guhan would lose his last bit of self. At that time, Guhan would really become a corpse without a soul. "Guhan, Guhan." Seeing Guhan's soul like this, even if Qing Pin was ignorant, he knew that things were not good. But now, Guhan's soul had expanded to the size of a hill. Qing Pin was not even as tall as one of Guhan's toes. "Guhan, Qing Pin is here." Qing Pin gritted his teeth, then pounced on Guhan's toes and started to climb. Qing Pin treated Guhan's soul as a real mountain range. Qing Pin climbed with great difficulty. Although this was a mountain range in his sea of consciousness and not a real mountain range, the difficulty of climbing it was not inferior to any real mountain range. A real mountain range had hard rocks that could allow a climber to climb it. However, Guhan's soul was indeed a smooth, jelly-like thing. One could imagine the difficulty of climbing a mountain made of jelly. To Qing Pin, this was no less than climbing the Himalayas with his bare hands. Qing Pin fell countless times. Every time he fell, he was covered in dirt. Although there was no blood on his body, he was pale. This was a sign that the origin of his soul had been damaged. But Qing Pin still struggled to climb up until she finally passed over Gahan's chin and climbed onto Gahan's lips. Gahan! Qing Pin called out Gahan's name. Then, she bit her lips and suddenly jumped into Gahan's mouth. Then, she carefully moved down along Gahan's tongue, risking the danger of falling into Gahan's esophagus at any time and becoming Gahan's food. She continued to climb up along Gahan's oral cavity. Finally, she passed through the nasal cavity and entered the core of Gahan's soul, which was the brain. This is it. At this moment, Qing Pin saw the 24 petals floating in Gahan's soul brain. These petals were engaged in an intense battle with the sword. This sword had a hilt with the shape of Etienne, the shape of Douyu, the color of Juzi, the pattern of flowing water, the body of the sword with the shape of Xian Yuan, the aura of Zhu Xian, and the smiling face of Qing Pin. Yes, Qing Pin's smiling face was engraved on the body of this sword. It was vivid and lifelike, just like the real Qing Pin. Gahan! Qing Pin understood. This was the true self of Gahan's soul, formed from all the sword maidens he had met in his life. Now, this true self was engaged in a battle of life and death with the 24 petals. Gahan! Qing Pin is no longer useless. This time, Qing Pin will help you. Qing Pin will definitely help Gahan. Qing Pin is not useless. Qing Pin is not a useless burden. Qing Pin's gaze revealed a never-before-seen seriousness. Qing Pin had always been joking and carefree. Gahan had never seen Qing Pin reveal such a serious expression, as if he was an adult. You bastard, Qing Pin, I'll fight you to the death. Qing Pin was as angry as a lion cub. His body instantly transformed into Qing Pin's sword and stabbed towards the 24 petals. The 24 petals never thought that a second opponent would appear at this time. The sword formation that surrounded Gahan's true self immediately showed some flaws. This allowed Gahan's true self to seize the opportunity to break free from the encirclement and reunite with Qing Pin. The 24 petals seemed to be a little angry at this scene. They simply surrounded Qing Pin and Gahan's true self at the same time, planning to kill them together. Needless to say, the 24 petals really did have such strength. This was because even though Qing Pin had joined the battle, Qing Pin's swordsmanship was too bad. It could be said that she was the worst swordswoman among all of Gahan's sword maidens. When she fought alongside Gahan's true self, it was already a blessing that she did not help. Gahan! Qing Pin's sword let out a sorrowful sword hum. She was sorrowful for her own incompetence. She did not expect that her appearance would be so powerless. She hated herself for always being half-hearted when learning swordsmanship. Now, she had become an obstacle for Gahan. Qing Pin suddenly heard Gahan's voice. Before she could react to what had happened, she felt her body being hit by Gahan's true self sword. At this moment, a large amount of memories related to the sword surged into Qing Pin's consciousness. Only then did Qing Pin realize that this was Gahan passing his swordsmanship memory to her through this method. Gahan! The sword around Qing Pin's body hummed. After receiving Gahan's swordsmanship memory, Qing Pin's sword seemed to have changed into a swordswoman. It was no longer as clumsy as before. Every move became extremely exquisite, and even faintly contained the power of rules. To put it bluntly, Qing Pin had already grasped half of Gahan's swordsmanship in an instant. The entire situation had undergone a shocking reversal. Faced with 1.5 Gahan, the 24 petals were no longer able to suppress him. They went from being on the offensive to being on the defensive. They were constantly being beaten back by Qing Pin's sword and Gahan's true self, unable to protect their heads or tails. Suddenly, Gahan saw an opportunity. He forcefully separated a petal from the opponent's formation, and then quickly struck it in front of Qing Pin's sword. Eat! Gahan's voice rang in Qing Pin's ears. Without another word, Qing Pin immediately turned back into a lowly, opened his mouth, and ate the petal. After that, the petal never came out of Qing Pin's stomach again. At the same time, This petal became the signal for the opponent to collapse. The 24 petals were already no match for Gahan and Qingpin. After losing one petal, the situation became irreversible. More and more petals were forcefully separated by Gahan's true self and sent directly into Qingpin's stomach. In the end, it even turned into these petals constantly fleeing, avoiding Qingpin's terrifying big mouth. Damn it! Outside the body, the originally calm Qingpin's expression suddenly changed. Without another word, she stretched out her hand towards Gohan's body and sucked. The white petals from before flew out of Gohan's body. 1, 2, 3, 12. Qingpin's expression was frighteningly ugly. Only 12 of the 24 petals had returned. She couldn't summon half of them back. One could imagine what this meant. This time, she had probably lost all her capital. Chapter 12:31. I'm going to kill you. Qingpin's expression changed drastically when she saw that 12 of her petals had disappeared. She grabbed the Xianyuan sword in her hand and swung it at Gohan's head, intending to end Gohan here and now. Why bother? You can't kill me in this illusion. The Xianyuan sword was blocked by Qingpin's sword. Qingpin's expression was as ugly as if she had eaten shit. This was because Gohan was once again standing in front of her with a playful smile on his face. You've already lost. I'm back. Gohan flicked the Xianyuan sword out of Qingpin's hand, then said, All right, Lady Xianyuan, the duel is over. You can come back now. Hee hee, I knew you wouldn't be defeated so easily. The Xianyuan sword turned back into its human form in the air and looked at Gohan with a smile on its face. Gohan, Gohan. The other sword ladies also gathered around. Qijian and Douyu were so happy that they cried. Itian was secretly wiping his tears. Juzi was still standing guard silently. Even Celestial Zhu and Celestial Juexian were clapping. Only Shi Shui stood at the side blankly, as if none of this had anything to do with her. Wishful thinking. Do you really think you've won? I still have 12 petals. Qingpin felt extremely unhappy when she saw Gohan being surrounded by so many stars. Her hands trembled, and the lotus in front of her that only had half a petal left began to spin rapidly again. Is that so? But I also have 12 petals. Gohan threw the Qingpin sword in his hand away. Qingpin turned back into a lowly. Then he copied Qingpin and shook his hands as well. A lotus with 12 petals floated in front of Qingpin. This is interesting. You have 12 petals, and I also have 12 petals. Who do you think will be the final winner? Gohan said in an extremely infuriating manner. Qingpin looked at the lotus on Qingpin's chest and gasped for breath. Her gaze was also somewhat blurred, as if she was unable to accept this reality. But the truth meant that you had to accept it in the end, and there was nothing you could do if you didn't accept it. What a joke. I didn't expect you to become so successful. You two just wait. You won't be able to overturn the heavens. After saying this, Qingpin turned into a stream of light and drilled into Qingpin's body, disappearing without a trace. Qingpin, how are you? Seeing Qingpin enter Qingpin's body, Gohan immediately asked with concern. I'm fine. She couldn't beat us, but she was too embarrassed to admit defeat. So she returned to my body and became a coward. Qingpin stuck out his tongue and immediately said, All right, Gohan, there's another piece of good news. Now that I have 12 petals, Qingpin can forget about threatening and controlling me. Hee, she wanted to destroy my consciousness, so I destroyed these 12 petals first. She didn't even have the courage to touch me. Gohan, you don't have to be threatened by her anymore, and you don't have to worry about me anymore. Qingpin said happily, his little face beaming like a flower. Really? Gohan excitedly hugged Qingpin and kissed Qingpin's face a few times. Qingpin's little face turned red from the kisses. All right, you shameless Lilicon. Can't you see our Qingpin's face is swollen? Qijian was probably a little jealous, so he grabbed Qingpin from Guzuoyuan's arms. Douyu took the opportunity to take over Qingpin's position and snuggled into Gohan's arms. She pouted and said, Big brother, I want a kiss too. You should kiss me too. I was so worried about you just now. All right, I'll kiss you too. Gahan did not refuse and directly kissed Doyu's face, which surprised Doyu. Usually, it was extremely difficult to ask for a kiss from Gahan. After all, Gahan was still a little afraid of the fact that they were siblings. So, when Gahan kissed her directly, it surprised Doyu a little. She foolishly stayed in Gahan's arms and giggled. What about me? Chijian saw that Qingpin and Doyu had successfully asked for a kiss, so it also pouted. Gahan laughed and forcefully kissed Chijian's lips. Chijian felt a little embarrassed and shyly hid to the side. Itian, come here. Gahan probably felt that he could not favor one and discriminate against the other. So after kissing Chijian, Qingpin, and Doyu, he called out to Itian. Are you crazy? Why do I feel like you've changed into a different person today? You become so annoying. Who wants to be kissed by you? Itian muttered. All right then, Juz. Gahan raised his eyebrows and was about to call out to Juzi. Wait, who said I don't want it? You're my sword wielder, and I'm your sword mistress. Do you think I can refuse your orders? You big pervert, big baddie. Itian closed his eyes and walked to Gahan's side, accepting his fate. AI. Gahan kissed Itian's lips deeply, causing Itian to feel dizzy. It was as if the world had turned pink. Juzi, do you want it? Gahan turned to Juzi and asked. Juzi will listen to Master. Juzi lowered her head and replied. No, don't listen to me today. Listen to yourself. If you want it, then raise your head. If you don't want it, then take a step back. Gahan looked at Juzi and said seriously, You're my sword lady, but you're also my master. Sometimes you should listen to me, and sometimes you should listen to your own ideas. Oh, Juzi replied and raised her head. Gahan smiled and gently kissed Juzi's lips. This was the first time Gahan and Juzi kissed. Just like Juzi's name, her lips actually had a faint Juzi fragrance. Me too. Me too. You can't ignore me now. I've already given my body to you. Xian Yuan excitedly skipped over and took the initiative to kiss Gahan. What else could Gahan say? Naturally, he kissed Xuanyuan's lips as well. Wait, something's wrong just now. Qijian's expression froze. It suddenly realized that something was wrong with Xuanyuan's words. It rushed to Gu Xuanyuan's side and pulled Gahan's ear and asked, Tell me clearly, what do you mean by Xuanyuan's body is also yours? Ahem, it's a long story. Boring pervert. Seeing Gahan shamelessly asking for kisses among the sword maidens, Zhu Xian's face was filled with disdain and disgust, but there was also a touch of envy. Sister, what are you thinking? Do you want me to give you a little push? You could be as shameless as Xian Yuan. You and this man have already seen each other, so a kiss on the lips isn't a big deal. Zhu Xian giggled as she tried to persuade her. Mind your own business. Us sisters still have a long way to go. Zhu Xian rolled her eyes at Zhu Xian, then looked at the past water sword that was still isolated outside, and felt a little worried. Would Shi Shui, who had always been incompatible with the group, become a huge problem in the future? After all, as the only chance of winning against Tong Tian, Gu Xianyuan couldn't be careless about anything. Li Bai was about to leave on a boat, when he suddenly heard footsteps singing on the shore. The Peach Blossom Pond is 1,000 feet deep. It's not enough to express my love. In the Brastonbury stronghold, Li Bai sat on the ground, leisurely drinking wine. There were dozens of empty Maotai bottles beside him. Sigh. This wine is still a little worse than by Datong's Jian Nanshan. Li Bai drank another bottle of Maotai and said with some regret, At this moment, beside Li Bai, apart from the empty bottles, there's also a body that was sleeping soundly on the ground. If it wasn't for the fact that the body's chest was still moving up and down, others would have thought that it was a dead person. Master Li Bai, we are all on the same path. We are all natural partners and friends. Why are you against us today and protecting this damned human? Around Li Bai, countless Yuan Ko surrounded him tightly. These people looked at Li Bai without any hatred in their eyes. Instead, they looked at him with deep admiration. After all, Li Bai was a holy existence in the hearts of every Chinese. However, when they looked at Gu Xianyuan, their expressions were not so pleasant. They looked as if they wanted to cut Gu Xianyuan into meat paste. If it wasn't for Li Bai protecting Gu Xianyuan, Gu Xianyuan would have been cut into meat paste by these Yuan Ko. Sigh. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. Bai is an upright person, upholding human justice and walking the right path. When did Bai become partners and friends with you guys who forget the rules of the world? This is the funniest joke in the world. Li Bai said disdainfully as he drank his wine. Master Li Bai, you are wrong. This is not the real world. Besides, we are all filthy. This world can't wait to get rid of us, so we have to destroy this world. This is the natural opposition of yin and yang, just like a mouse and a cat, or an eagle and a snake. Master Li Bai, you also come from another world. We are essentially the same. One wore a silk scarf and held a feather fan. If it wasn't for the fact that Zhuge Kongming had died under the longevity Sword Emperor's sword, everyone would have thought that this Yuanko was Zhuge Kongming. Fine, if we don't get along, then it's pointless to waste any more words. If you want to harm friend Bai today, then you'll have to step over Bai's corpse. Li Bai threw the wine pot in his hand and looked around with a pair of sharp eyes. All the Yuan Ko that Li Bai's gaze landed on could not help but lower their heads. No one dared to look Li Bai in the eye. This was not just because they respected Li Bai, but also because they feared him. Although there was nothing else around Li Bai other than the wine bottle and Gu Xianyuan, that was because Yuan Ko's corpse would not be left behind after his death. If Yuan Ko's corpse had not been sucked away by the dimensional vortex, Li Bai would have probably been surrounded by hundreds of corpses. When Gu Xiaoyuan fell unconscious on top of Artoria's tombstone, the other bandits of the Martyr's Palace, who had received Jeeb's warning, swarmed over and surrounded Li Bai and Gu Xiaoyuan. It had been 7 to 8 hours since then. In these 8 hours, hundreds of Yuan Ko had died in Li Bai's hands. Although Li Bai was a super famous historical figure and was respected by the other Yuan Ko, this was only limited to China's Yuan Ko. However, this was only limited to the Yuan bandits of Huaxia. Moreover, it was the Yuan bandits of Huaxia after the Central Tang Dynasty. The Yuan bandits of Huaxia before the Central Tang Dynasty and those foreign Yuan bandits of Huaxia didn't have any respect for Li Bai. Therefore, these Yuan Ko attacked in unison, wanting to kill Li Bai on the spot. At the very least, they wanted to kill Gu Xianyuan, who was lying on the ground. They had to deal with the attacks of these Yuan Ko while protecting Gu Xianyuan's body from harm. This was no less difficult than playing League of Legends while doing homework. However, not only did Li Bai handle it with ease, but he also didn't let Gu Xianyuan's body suffer any harm. He even killed all the Yuan Ko who dared to make a move. He used the bloody corpses to tell the other Yuan Ko that if they wanted to come over, they had to be prepared to die. Yuan Ko wasn't completely unafraid of death. After recognizing the truth, no Yuan Ko was stupid enough to court death. The scene fell into a stalemate. At this time, Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei were also among the crowd. They were Yuan Ko, who were extremely weak in combat. Even if you beat them to death, they would not have the guts to fight Li Bai. Therefore, they had been watching everything with the attitude of a bystander. However, their freedom soon came to an end. The expressions of the two people hiding in the crowd changed. They looked as if their mother had died. Qin Hui opened his mouth as if he wanted to argue, but to no avail. Instead, he looked as if he had been scolded. There's no other way. Qin Hui turned his head and looked at Wang Jingwei with the same expression. Wang Jingwei looked back at Qin Hui with the same expression. In the end, they sighed in unison and left the crowd. 10 minutes later, they returned with a whole box of food. War Li Bai. When Li Bai heard someone calling his name, he turned around and saw Wang Jingwei and Qin Hui walking over with a box of food each. It was all thanks to Wang Jingwei and Qin Hui's help that Li Bai had come to the stronghold. The two of them had called each other brothers, and Wang Jingwei and Qin Hui had never done anything wrong to Li Bai. Instead, it was Li Bai who felt that he owed them. As such, a smile appeared on Li Bai's face as he called out to Wang Jingwei and Qin Hui. Why are you two here instead of watching the show? It's getting dark. Lord Li Bai, you haven't eaten anything for almost 10 hours. We were afraid that you would be hungry, so we brought you some food and wine. Please accept it. Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei opened the box of food and took out a variety of dishes. Needless to say, Wang Jingwei and Qin Hui had made ample preparations. Not only were there 3 vegetarian dishes and 3 meat dishes, they had also prepared 2 side dishes, a bowl of duck soup, and a large flask of aged wine. The aroma of the dishes could be smelled from afar. It was really fragrant. Good food, good wine. Levi picked up a plate of braised pork and smelled it. Then he picked up the pot of aged wine and gave it a sincere compliment. Since it's good food and wine, Lord Levi, please eat quickly. Otherwise, it won't taste good when it gets cold. Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei said, the food is good and the wine is also good. It's just that the person who sent it is a little strange. Levi glanced at Wang Jingwei and Qin Hui and said, although Bai and the 2 of you called each other brothers just now, we are now in a different world. You are not the kind of people who would sacrifice yourselves for the sake of righteousness. Why did you serve by such delicious food? Well, Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei looked at each other. Although they were both big bad guys, they could not find an excuse for such a question. In the end, they could only smile bitterly and answer, we have been bad guys all our lives, and now we want to be good guys. I just don't know if Lord Levi will give us such a chance. This is not a chance for nothing. You 2 asked for it. Levi flipped the dishes with his chopsticks and said with a smile, tell me honestly, is this food poisoned? No, absolutely not. Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei hurriedly waved their hands. In order to prove their innocence, they picked up their chopsticks and put a piece of food into their mouths to prove the safety of these dishes. I've wronged that brother for nothing. I apologize to the 2 of you for nothing. Levi laughed and toasted Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei. After that, he picked up the dishes with his chopsticks and began to eat them in big bites. Chapter 12:32. Levi ate and drank with Wang Jingwei and Qin Hui. The 3 of them ate and drank under the watchful eyes of the crowd. When they were almost done, Levi blushed and said with a strange smile, did Jabi give you the antidote in advance? Wang Jingwei and Qin Hui looked at Levi and said, did he give you the antidote in advance? Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei's expressions changed. They smiled flatteringly and said, Master Levi, what are you talking about? No matter how shameless we are, we would never do such a thing. To be honest, it's hard to be a bad person. It's even harder to be a bad person, and it's even harder to be a bad person. It's even more impossible for a bad person to become a good person. Levi continued to eat and drink. Some things have been engraved in your bones. If you can't change them, you'll end up like in Lushan and Sure Siming. Both of you are hopeless bastards. Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei were stunned for a while. Then, Qin Hui said quietly, since Master Levi has seen through us, why do you still want to eat our food and drink? What about Jabi? Why not? Levi shrugged. There's no poison in the food and drink. But Jabi, Wang Jingwei's eyes widened as if he could not understand the meaning of Levi's words. Jabi is a liar. He lied to you too, Levi said, shaking his head and sounding a little pitiful. Jabi lied to us? Jabi? Before Wang Jingwei and Qin Hui could finish their words, they could not say another word. In an instant, their bodies turned into a cloud of blood mist. Shrouded by the blood mist, a golden light shot directly at Levi's heart. You're so boring. You're using your own people's lives as a smokescreen to cover up your own intentions. Jabi, you're a scumbag even worse than these 2 bastards. Levi's body glowed with a crimson light. When everything calmed down, a golden arrow fell beside Levi. The arrow looked very familiar. Wasn't it Jabi's golden arrow? Humph! I didn't expect you to find out. Jabi, who was a U-level master, walked up to Levi and glanced disdainfully at Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei's bodies that were about to be taken away by the dimensional vortex. These 2 are useless. It's not a big deal to kill them. It turned out that this was Jabi's plan. First, he lied to Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei by telling them that the food was poisoned. Then, he gave Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei the antidote so that they could trick Bai into drinking the poisoned food. Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei did not know what was going on. Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei and Zhibai thought. Qin and Jingwei thought. However, Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei didn't know that this was just a smokescreen to deceive them. They might be able to fool Yuan bandits of other levels, but they would never be able to fool Yuan bandits who were above a universe realm. Therefore, there was no poison in the food at all. This was to make Li Bai lower his guard. However, Zhibi hid in a hidden place and used Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei's bodies as cover. Then, he shot a fatal arrow at Li Bai. Because they were kept in the dark from beginning to end, Li Bai and Wang Jingwei never thought that the fatal arrow that was aimed at Li Bai would come from behind them. Li Bai would also lower his guard because Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei were in front of him. He never expected that someone would sacrifice Qin Hui and Wang Jingwei's lives to assassinate him. People say that you are smart, but I don't believe them. Zhibi, you are indeed smart. Zhibi exclaimed in admiration when he saw that his plan, which he thought was foolproof, had failed. Don't. I'm a fool. People who know me know that if I were smart, I wouldn't have ended up like that. I'm a complete fool, Li Bai said in a self-deprecating manner. Oh, so you didn't find out? Zhibi frowned. He had a bad feeling. Yes, I'm not that smart. Li Bai nodded heavily. Then he patted Gu Xuanyuan's body beside him and said with a smile, Miss Xianyuan, it's getting late. We should go back now. When are you going to stop acting? I'm just lying on the ground for a while, because I'm happy with your performance. Gu Xianyuan smiled and got up from the ground. Looking at the densely packed Yuan Ko surrounding her, she said with a smile, Brother Li Bai, thank you for guarding me for so long. I, Gohan, will never forget your kindness. Wait, are my eyes playing tricks on me? Miss Xianyuan, how did you become a man? Who is Gohan? Li Bai rubbed his eyes. He never expected that Gu Xianyuan, who had been a woman just a moment ago, would become a man in the blink of an eye. She even called herself Gohan. I'll explain it to you later. Just pretend that I'm Gohan all the time. Just don't tell anyone. Gohan said to Li Bai secretly through voice transmission. It's okay if you don't tell anyone, but everyone around here knows that you were originally a woman. Think about it yourself. Li Bai shrugged his shoulders. Strange, how did this person become a man? Yes, it was clearly a woman just now. As expected, seeing Gohan appear, the surrounding Yuan Ko immediately began to talk about it. Who are you? Where is that woman? Hand her over. Zhibi drew his bow and arrow and pointed at Gohan's nose. Even if you don't ask me, I still have to say it. You guys are all very brave. You actually dared to bully my sister. If it wasn't for my quick reflexes and my good friendly Bai's help, my sister would have died in your hands. We will settle this debt. Gohan narrowed his eyes and said, Nonsense. That's impossible. I've been watching this place. How could you possibly save your sister? That's impossible, Zhibi said loudly. If you have the ability, then go and find my sister. You can't even understand how I saved my sister. What face do you have to point an arrow at my head? Gohan's words were filled with venom. After Gohan completed the synchronization with the Celestial Extinguishing Sword, Gohan had used up all the power of the 6 Revolutions celestial pills in his body. That was why he had changed back to his original appearance from Gu Xianyuan to Gohan. Of course, it was impossible for Zhibi to see when Gohan saved Gu Xianyuan. However, Zhibi did not know this. Moreover, Gohan had directly said that he was the one who saved Gu Xianyuan, which completely fooled Zhibi. Zhibi was thinking about how Gohan saved Gu Xianyuan. It had never crossed his mind that Gu Xianyuan had become Gohan. As for the other Yuan Ko who was present, they did not know what had happened before. They had not even seen Gu Xianyuan before. When Zhibi accepted the fact that Gu Xianyuan had been rescued, the other Yuan Ko members also accepted the fact that Gu Xianyuan was rescued. Oof. Then I'll kill you and interrogate your soul. The golden arrow in Zhibi's hand flew out and went straight for Gohan's head. Unexpectedly, Gohan didn't even try to dodge. Instead, he used the poor sword in his hand to deflect the golden arrow. You can't even defeat my sister, and you still want to fight me? Gohan sneered. He shot out like an arrow that was released from a bow. His speed was even faster than the golden arrow shot by Jabi. What? Jabi's eyes widened. He did not expect Gahan to be so fast that he did not even have time to escape through the void gate. Legend of Chaos. Gahan did not hesitate. He directly used his most powerful killer move. The Legend of Chaos hit Jabi, who could not dodge in time. The Legend of Chaos was the fifth move in the Chaos Sword art created by Gahan. It was the first move among all of Gohan's swordsmanship that was completely performed with the power of the rule. It could transform one's entire body into the rule for a short period of time. The power of the rule was the power that could cross reality and the void gate. Once an attack was performed with the power of the rule, the damage caused would be able to penetrate any defense and cause devastating damage in an indescribable way. There was already a universe level, Yuan Koetmond, who was killed by Gohan's rule power. Now, there was another universe level named Jabi. As Gohan's Legend of Chaos hit Jabi's body, Jabi did not even have the time to scream or make a frightened expression. He did not even have the time to think. His body cracked like broken glass and turned into a pile of debris. Finally, a dimensional vortex appeared and sucked in the unlucky universe level Yuan Ko. Oh my god, he actually instantly killed. Xi and Shiji looked at the scene in front of him dumbfoundedly. He never thought that the powerful universe-class Ko, Jabi, would die in the hands of a human like this. He didn't even have a chance to resist, not even a second, and he didn't even have the chance to escape into the void. He was completely killed by this human in seconds. Wasn't Immortal Extinguish sword bragging a little too much when it said that it could increase sword essence by tens of millions? Alright, no matter what, Gahan now had 1,050,000 quarks of sword essence. In other words, when Gahan became a true spirit sword maiden, Gahan already had the potential to transform into an immortal sword maiden. As long as Gahan could find his own immortal sword maiden, then Gahan could become an immortal sword maiden. TSK, a 22-year-old immortal sword maiden. This age had already surpassed the records of all sword holders, including Kinzu. No one could be compared to Gahan. Based on this alone, Gahan could go down in history and become a name that every youth had to remember when they studied in the future. But using 1 million quarks of sword essence just now was still a bit too wasteful. It felt like I only needed to use about 700,000 quarks to kill Jabi. There was no need to waste the remaining 300,000 quarks. Gahan secretly reflected in his heart, reflected on his wasteful behavior. Hurry up and run for your life. Seeing that Gahan was in a daze in the sky, the surrounding Yuan Ko suddenly woke up from a shock. One Yuan Ko shouted, and the other Yuan Ko instantly came to a realization. Then, they frantically fled in all directions and began their own escape journey. Want to escape? Have you asked for my permission? The Celestial Slayer sword in Gahan's hand began to emit sword chi. As long as Gahan willed it, the sword chi would shoot out in all directions. It might be hard to say if the Yuan Ko above Nether level would die, but the Yuan Ko below Nether level would definitely die. Brother Gahan, wait a moment. Please let them off. Levi suddenly spoke up to stop Gahan when he saw this scene. Why? Gahan turned his head to look at Levi and asked with narrowed eyes. This was also because Levi had guarded Gahan's body for 7 or 8 hours, ensuring that he would not die in the hands of Yuan Ko when he fell into the illusion. That was why Gahan would stop. Otherwise, based on Gahan's deep hatred for Yuan Ko, no one would be able to stop Gahan, no matter who spoke up. The non-Chinese Yuan Ko were all killed by a long time ago. The remaining Yuan Ko didn't attack Bai from beginning to end. At the same time, there are also people who admire Bai. According to the modern words, they are Bai's fans. Levi smiled bitterly. Bai can't just watch Bai's fans die in the hands of Bai's friends. Bai doesn't care if you kill them at other times, but at least now, you can't kill them in front of Bai. Okay. Gahan nodded. Since Levi had spoken up, he had to give him face. Moreover, Yuan Ko who were below universe level were no longer in Gahan's eyes. Killing them now, or in the future, was the same. Thank you. Levi smiled and patted Gahan's shoulder. Okay, Now can you tell me where Bai's dear Miss Guxinyuan went? Chapter 1233. Long Sure. What the hell do you want to do? The three Hong levels Yuan Ko didn't know how many times they had asked Long Sure Jinny this question, but Long Sure Jinny had only given one answer from beginning to end, which was to invite the three of them to spend more time inside the dimensional barrier and to invite them to eat a few more meals. The three Hong levels Yuan Ko naturally refused. They first chose to collectively attack a position in the dimensional barrier, try to break the defensive cover of the dimensional barrier. But every time this happened, Long Sure Jindy would rush into the dimensional barrier, hindering the three of them from breaking through. Disturbed by Long Sure Jindy, the three of them naturally did not dare to break through with all their strength, and could only turn around and besiege Long Sure Jindy. But every time this happened, Long Sure Jindy would cunningly break through the void and escape from the dimensional barrier, not giving the three of them the opportunity to besiege him. The three Yuan Ko's faces turned as red as Guan Yu's after being tossed, and turned by Long Sure Jindy. They wished they could risk their lives to kill this cunning Long Sure Jindy. While they were angry, the three Yuan Ko's were also puzzled. Although Long Sure Jindy kept harassing them to break through the dimensional barrier, it was only a small dimensional barrier system after all. Under their desperate attacks, the energy value of the dimensional barrier had been reduced by about 90%. As long as they put in a little more effort, it would not take more than an hour and a half at most for this small dimensional barrier system to be broken by them. At that time, birds could fly freely in the sky, and fish could jump freely in the sea. The three flood-level Yuan Ko's had made dozens of great aspirations in their hearts, swearing that as long as they rushed out, they would lead their Yuan Ko's to launch endless attacks on the sword-bearers outside London. Even if they had to sacrifice their identity as flood-level Yuan Ko, even if Yuan Ko had to deal with some famed sword rank, or even ancient sword rank sword-bearers, they would not hesitate. In short, once these three flood-level Yuan Ko's were freed, unless they did not leave the protection of the dimensional barrier, they would die. After all, these flood-level Yuan Ko's were already angry. It was precisely because of this that the three flood-level Yuan Ko's could not understand why Long Sure Jindy did this. Long Sure Jindy should know very well what the result of provoking their anger would be. Long Sure Jindy should also know that it was impossible for him to kill three flood-level Yuan Ko's by himself, and that the small dimensional barrier would eventually be destroyed. Long Sure Jindy himself should be very clear about how bad this move was, so why did he still make this move? This was something that the three flood-level Yuan Ko's could not understand no matter how hard they tried. Lord General! Lord General! Suddenly, a group of cavalrymen galloped from a distance. Behind this group of cavalrymen was a large military flag with the word Guan written on it. Obviously, this was Guan Yu's army. Stop them! The surrounding sword-bearers rushed over to intercept this group of cavalrymen Yuan Ko, but they did not expect that Long Sure Jindy would give the order to rest assured. These sword-bearers could only resentfully retreat, letting this group of cavalrymen come to the front of the dimensional barrier. Zhang Bao, why are you here? What happened? Guan Yu asked, loudly through the dimensional barrier. Lord Uncle, it's not good. Some emptiness people have joined forces with the freelancers to break into our stronghold. Hundreds of dragon-level and above brothers have already died in their hands. They also took away the innate sword lady of our monastery. We couldn't get in touch with Lord Uncle no matter what, so I had to personally lead a group of cavalrymen to rush over. Lord Uncle, what happened to you? Zhang Bao said anxiously. Hey, don't you have eyes? We have been tricked by these emptiness people and trapped by their dimensional barrier. Guan Yu's face, which was like a monkey's buttocks, turned even redder. He turned to Long Sure Jindy and angrily asked, This is your trick, isn't it? You deliberately used that woman to lure us here, and then sent people to sneak into our stronghold and steal our innate sword ladies. You shameless scum. I actually thought you were an opponent, but I was wrong about you. You are a shameless scum. Don't make it sound so ugly. What do you mean I'm a shameless scum? Dare I asked General Guan Yu, are those innate sword ladies your innate sword ladies? She's also the sword lady that your people stole from our Yinjing city. These innate sword ladies originally belonged to us humans, and now we are just returning them to their rightful owners. Don't talk nonsense with him. Since he has done this, he will not listen to you. Zhang Bao, let me ask you, how are those two people now? Did they escape? Temujin said to Guan Yu, then turned to Zhang Bao and asked, Your Majesty Temujin, the human is in a coma, and we don't know whether he is dead or alive. As for the free man, he is still trapped by us. Zhang Bao replied, Who is that human? Who is the free man? I'd like to see who in the world has the guts to steal the things of our martyr's palace. Temujin asked. On the other side, Long Shijindi also pricked up his ears. This was the reason why he released Zhang Bao, because Long Shijindi also wanted to know the current situation of Gu Shirhan and Li Bai. That human is a woman. There is no information about this woman in the database for the time being, but I saw her yesterday when I was watching the battle with my uncle. She is undoubtedly the woman who fought with the pirate sword Immortal yesterday. I saw it with my own eyes. Zhang Bao replied. What? It's that woman. Temujin looked as if he had been struck by lightning. He turned his head fiercely to look at Long Shijindi and said, Long Shijindi, you are really good at scheming. You are really good at putting on a good show. First, you let that woman fight with your own people, and finally, you used the gimmick of an emperor's sword against a spiritual sword to attract the attention of us and the dragon kings of the four seas. I never thought that this last battle was actually a big scam, just to lure us here so that woman could sneak in. Amazing. Really amazing. This Khan has dominated the world for decades, but this is the first time I have been schemed like this. Thank you for letting me win. Same to you. Long Shijindi was quite straightforward and directly admitted his scheme. And that free man? Who is that free man? Could it be that the people of the Freedom Metropolis have already decided to violate the agreement they made with us and intervene in this war? Guan Yu asked a key question. That is also a new free man. I think his name is Li Bai, and he seems to be very famous in later generations. Those brothers after the Tang dynasty all know him. His kung fu is also extremely powerful, especially his swordsmanship, which is simply amazing. None of our hundreds of brothers could withstand a single move from him. General Jabi said that this Li Bai is at least a universe-level expert, or even an eternity-level expert. Li Bai? This Khan has heard Eternal Spring Jinren say that this is a poet of the Tang dynasty who wrote a cliché. It's really boring. I can't believe that such a sour guy actually has such strength. Temujin exclaimed. Then his face changed, and he shouted, Not good. I'm afraid that no one in the stronghold is a match for this person except for Jabi. The stronghold is in danger. If we don't rush out quickly, I'm afraid that all our men will die. In that case, let's use our trump card. Guan Yu glanced at his two companions beside him, and Temujin and Tesla nodded at the same time. Although they had been attacking the dimensional barrier for the past few hours, they had only used conventional means and held all their trump cards in their hands. The reason why they had been holding back was that such a trump card would consume their source power, which required a lot of time to recover. But now that the stronghold was in such a crisis, they could not delay any longer. They could only pinch their noses and accept it, and they had to get out of here first. The three old guys are going all out. Seeing this scene, Long Shijindi secretly shook his head. Long Shijindi knew that even if he could withstand the 3 flood-level Yuan Ko's trump cards, he would probably lose half of his life and consume a lot of sword essence. He had trapped the 3 flood-level Yuan Ko's for long enough, and he had fulfilled his promise to Gu Shirhan. As for whether Gu Shirhan was dead or alive, Long Shijindi was sorry. Long Shijindi would never put himself in danger. Seeing that Long Shijindi had chosen to stand by and do nothing, the 3 flood-level Yuan Ko's were not surprised at all. If they were in Long Shijindi's shoes, they would have done the same. It was just that once they consumed their source power, they would not be able to retaliate against the human sword-bearers in the future. Otherwise, if they were caught by Long Shijindi and consumed their source power, they would probably die on the spot. Sigh, It seems that the Martyr's Palace is going to suffer a big loss this time, but the city of London shouldn't get any benefits either. There will be a reign of terror on the sea in the future. After knowing that Longshore Jindy's target was not them at all, the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas sat calmly on the sidelines, watching the three flood-level Yuan-Ko's Longshore Jindy's play as if they were watching a play. But now, the good show was coming to an end. The three Yuan-Ko's were ready to go all out, while Longshore Jindy had chosen to give up. Sigh. It would have been good if they had played for a while. Such fun could not be seen even once in hundreds of years. This guy, Longshore Jindy, who was watching coldly from the sidelines, suddenly received a communication notification in his mind. He took a look and found that it was actually a communication from Gusher Han. The communication said, "The matter is over. Sword Maiden is in my hands and is on her way back. If Guan Yu and the other two try to break out of the encirclement, Your Majesty Longshore, please be sure to intercept them and wait for my return." What does this Gusher Han mean? She actually wants me to stop these three guys. Longshore Jindy glanced at the three flood-level Yuan-Ko's, who were already halfway through preparing their big moves, and began to secretly estimate the price he would have to pay to intercept them. This price would take at least half a year to recover. Should I stop them or not? Longshore Jindy's dilemma did not last long before he decisively decided not to stop them. Even if he stopped them, what could he do? Would he be able to kill these three run-level Yuan bandits? Your Majesty, if this junior can wait for my return, I will certainly be able to kill one or two of them and achieve Your Majesty's unparalleled merit. Gusher Han seemed to have understood Longshore Jindy's thoughts, and then sent another communication. This time, Longshore Jindy was really moved. If he could really kill one of these three flood-level Yuan-Ko's, then he would certainly be famous all over the world, and at the same time, he would also be able to resolve a knot in his heart. The biggest knot in Longshore Jindy's life was that although he was an Emperor Sword-level swordsman, he did not even have the achievements that an Emperor Sword-level swordsman should have. Other Emperor Sword-level swordsmen had at least killed one flood-level Yuan-Ko's, and some powerful Jindy had even killed more than a dozen flood-level Yuan-Ko's. As for the two Jindys, Kenzu and Jatian, they regarded the flood-level Yuan-Ko as nothing. More than 30 people had died under their swords, which made them famous. However, since Longshore Jindy had become an Emperor Sword-level swordsman, he did not even have a single flood-level Yuan-Ko's achievement. Although Longshore Jindy was still young and had at least 20 or 30 years of Emperor's fate, as time went by, this had become a nail buried in Longshore Jindy's heart, making Longshore Jindy suffer every moment. Therefore, when Gusher Han proposed a set of plans to recapture the lost sword lady in Yinjing City, Longshore Jindy very readily agreed to cooperate with Gusher Han in this play, in order to obtain the great merit of recapturing the sword lady, and thus cover up the fact that he had not killed the flood-level Yuan-Ko's. Now a great opportunity was placed in front of Longshore Jindy. It would be completely false to say that Longshore Jindy was not tempted. But the problem was that even if Longshore Jindy risked his serious injury to stall these Yuan-Ko's, even if Gusher Han came back, could she, a spirit sword-level swordsman, really help to kill a flood-level Yuan-Ko? Although Gusher Han, a spirit sword-level swordsman, was powerful enough to rival the pirate Jindy, it was impossible for her to kill one of the three flood-level Yuan-Ko's. If the pirate sword immortal makes a move, Longshore Jindy's mind turned. If the pirate sword immortal made a move, the result would be different. As long as the pirate sword celestial and Gusher Han could each hold off a river-level Yuan-Ko, he could focus on dealing with the other river-level Yuan-Ko. Then, he would have a chance to kill them. After all, the three Yuan-Ko had already used their ultimate moves, and the biggest threat was gone. But my losses too. Longshore Jindy began to worry about his loss again. Would the cost of recuperating for half a year be too huge? If there was a little trouble elsewhere, then wouldn't he? Your Majesty, this junior has 500 drops of Emperor blood in my hands, which I am willing to offer to Your Majesty to help Your Majesty recover. Gushirhan's third communication could be said to be a trump card, which completely conquered Longshur Jiandi's indecisive mind. Emperor Blood was not as magical as it used to be for immortal sword-level swordsmen, and its effect on Emperor sword-level swordsmen was dozens of times smaller. After all, Emperor Blood was the essence and blood separated from the body of an Emperor sword-level swordsman. How could one drop of Emperor Blood resurrect an Emperor sword-level swordsman in full condition? But everything was afraid of a large quantity, and once the quantity was large, the benefits would be large. A drop of Emperor Blood was naturally a drop of water on a burning cart of firewood for Jiandi. But if 500 drops of Emperor Blood were taken together, it might not be possible to resurrect in full condition, but it would still be normal to shorten the recovery time by half a year. In this way, in less than a month, Longshur Jiandi would be able to recover to his strongest state. As for whether Gushirhan had so much Emperor Blood at her hands, Longshur Jiandi did not doubt at all, because when he went to chat with Fleeting Wooden Fish not long ago, Fleeting Wooden Fish had personally told Longshur Jiandi that Gahan had taken tens of thousands of cc of Emperor Blood from them, which made Longshur Jiandi extremely envious. Do it! Looking at the 3 flood-level Yuankos that had been brewing their unique skills to the extreme not far away, Longshur Jiandi finally made up his mind, and the blade was already unsheathed. Chapter 1234. Eternal Heaven Descend. Temujin waved the saber in his hand, and the whole world changed color. The sky seemed to fall from the sky, and a dark mass fell on the world, as if it was going to crush the whole earth. This was Temujin's ultimate move. Myth, thunder, and lightning descend. As the sky pressed down, countless lightning snakes wantonly surged in the sky. Each lightning snake had at least 100 million volts of voltage. Once any of the lightning snakes touched them, no sword bearer below the spirit sword level could survive. This was Tesla's trump card. Green Dragon Crescent Moon Slash. A green dragon began to circle around Guan Yu's Green Dragon Crescent Moonblade. This green dragon's power was so great that it looked like a real dragon. No, even a normal real dragon couldn't compare to the real dragon circling around the Green Dragon Crescent Moonblade. Only a real dragon at the level of the Dragon King of the Four Seas could have such power. I say, Obey, why does this dragon look exactly like you? When the Dragon Kings of the Four Seas saw Guan Yu's real dragon, they couldn't help but complain to their brother, the Dragon King of the North Sea. As the 4 real dragons who were as close as brothers, they felt that the real dragon circling around the Green Dragon Crescent Moonblade looked exactly like the Dragon King of the North Sea. Cough, cough. The Dragon King of the North Sea coughed and said with a bitter face, when the fate of the Han Dynasty was at its end, the Jade Emperor decided to help the heroes of the world to bring chaos to the Han Dynasty. He asked me to donate a few hundred drops of blood. They didn't tell me what the blood was going to do at that time. Now it seems that it was used to forge this Green Dragon Crescent Moonblade. Bah! The people of the Heavenly Court are the most shameless. On one hand, they want to bring chaos to the dynasty in the human world, and on the other hand, they want us to bleed. They are so shameless. In fact, humans don't have so many things to do. It's just that the people of the Heavenly Court always feel that the fate of the dynasty in the human world is at its end, so they want to change the dynasty and make a bet on who the final winner will be. In a few words, the Dragon King of the EC revealed a big secret in the human world. People often say, when it comes to the great affairs of the world, what is united for a long time must be separated, and what is divided for a long time must be united. In fact, there was no such thing as separation and union. Ever since the Shang and Zhou dynasties, the Chan sect and the Jie sect used the destiny of the Shang and Zhou dynasties to have a great war. The people of the Heavenly Court began to like using the destiny of the dynasties in the human world to do things. The reason for Chan school and Jie school was for the prosperity of their respective sections. It was also a fair and reasonable reason. However, there was no such normal reason for the decline of the dynasties in the later generations. It was all because the big shots of the heavenly court were itching to gamble, but the standard of gambling was too low, and it was too boring. Therefore, these big shots of the heavenly court simply used the rise and fall of the dynasties in the mortal world as a plot. They would use a few forces as chess pieces and then have the big shots of the heavenly court place their bets. In the end, they would see whose chess piece would be able to conquer the world. In order to win the bet, these big shots would also shamelessly send their subordinates down to the mortal world to help the chess piece they had chosen. It was fine if the big shots followed the rules and were willing to admit defeat. After all, after a few decades of war, a new dynasty would appear, such as the Qin and Han dynasties, or the Tang, Song, Yuan, Ming, and Qing dynasties. However, if the big shots did not follow the rules and willfully cheated, then things would be very troublesome. The human world would suffer the most painful and endless war. For example, during the Five Barbarians Rebellion and the Five Dynasties and 10 Kingdoms period, it was because these big shots had placed too much of their bets. They would rather the entire human world turn into a pile of scorched earth in order to obtain the final victory. Thus, there were the two most painful periods in the history of Huaxia's dynasties. Later on, the Jade Emperor felt that this was not very good and that it would hurt the prestige of the heavenly court. Thus, he set up strict rules to prevent cheating. This was why the succession of dynasties was very smooth after the Song dynasty, and there were no centuries of chaos. Guan Yu's green dragon crescent blade was the masterpiece of a big shot of the heavenly court. This big shot naturally placed his bets on Liu Bei. In order to strengthen Liu Bei, he asked the North Sea Dragon King for a few hundred drops of blood essence to forge the green dragon crescent blade. Then, he passed it to Guan Yu through the hands of a merchant. However, this big shot did not expect that Guan Yu was too famous in the mortal world. In the end, he even became a saint with his physical body. In terms of martial strength and status, he was even above the big shot of the heavenly court. The green dragon crescent blade also evolved along with Guan Yu, reaching the point where it could evolve into a real dragon. These three guys have indeed brought out all their trump cards. This dimensional barrier only has 20% of its energy left. It definitely won't be able to withstand their ultimate moves. The four of us can leave after watching this final show, the East Sea Dragon King said calmly. The Dragon King of the East Sea said faintly. The other Dragon Kings also nodded. Just as they were about to pack up and leave, something unexpected happened. Just as the three Yuan Ko's ultimate moves were about to pull the trigger, a door suddenly appeared between the three of them. A middle-aged woman, who was basically naked with only a few leaves covering her vital parts, jumped out of the door and attacked Temujin's throat. "Longsure, you're crazy," Temujin shouted. His face had already turned purple. At this time, he was using his ultimate move with all his strength and had no spare energy to care about the sword aimed at his throat. Unless Temujin used his birth of longevity to stop this sword mistress, he would have no choice but to let her cut his throat. But if Temujin were to use his ultimate move to break through the dimensional barrier to attack the sword mistress, with the three of them being so close together, his ultimate move would definitely affect the other two. At that time, no one would be able to use their ultimate move. Temujin, don't worry about her. Attack the dimensional barrier with all your strength. Tesla shouted immediately, afraid that Temujin would be affected. But what Tesla didn't expect was that his words would have the opposite effect. If the one being attacked was Guan Yu, then with the temperament of a general, he would achieve his original goal, even if his throat was cut. But the problem was that the one being attacked was Temujin. Temujin was a king, and his vision was naturally much higher than Guan Yu's. It was reasonable to say that he should know what was important and what was not. But it was precisely because Temujin was a king, and a king was often the most selfish one, he would not risk his own injury for the benefit of the other two. Therefore, Temujin made a very incorrect decision in the blink of an eye. At the last moment, Temujin changed the target of his ultimate, moved to the sword mistress who was attacking him. Birth of Longevity was indeed the ultimate move of Genghis Khan, the king of a generation. Its power was amazing, and the whole dark sky covered the sword mistress' body. The sword mistress lost about 30% of her protective barrier on the spot, and her whole face became as pale as paper. Temujin and Longshur, you two bastards. But Guan Yu and Tesla were also covered by Temujin's attack, and their bodies also spat out several mouthfuls of blood from Temujin's ultimate move. The anger in their hearts instantly rose to the max. Longshur, since you won't let the three of us go, the three of us won't go either. We'll play with you to the end. Seeing that Temujin's ultimate move was interrupted, Guan Yu knew that it was impossible for him and Tesla to break the dimensional barrier with only their ultimate moves. Coupled with his anger towards Longshur Jindi's shameless behavior, Guan Yu was so angry that he simply stopped trying to break the dimensional barrier and directly threw his ultimate move on the sword mistress of Longshur Jindi. The sword mistress, who only had a few leaves to cover her body, could be described as miserable. She had just endured Temujin's ultimate move, and now she had to endure Guan Yu's ultimate move. In terms of single target attack power, Guan Yu's ultimate move was more than several times stronger than Temujin's. You guys, looking at the situation, even Tesla, who was the calmest among them, felt helpless. What else could he do? Like Guan Yu, he could only use his ultimate move on the Sword Maiden. The Sword Mistress could be described as miserable to the extreme. With her own strength, she forcibly took on 3 Hong level Yuan Ko's ultimate moves. Her protective barrier collapsed on the spot, and her body was full of cracks, faintly showing signs of breaking. Gaia, come back! Of course, Longshur Jindi could not just watch as his sword mistress was broken by the 3 Yuan Ko's. So at the critical moment, he appeared beside the sword mistress and let his sword mistress return to the sheath. You've worked hard. Longshur Jindi patted the hilt of the Gaia's sword and said. This Gaia's sword was Longshur Jindi's Emperor Sword level sword mistress, and only an Emperor Sword level sword mistress could withstand the attacks of 3 Hong level Yuan Ko's. Longshur, go to hell. This time, I will never let you off. Seeing Longshur Jindi appear in front of him, Tai Mujin, who was the first to be attacked, could no longer suppress the anger in his heart and slashed at Longshur Jindi's neck with the horseman in his hand. Barbarian, won't amount to anything. Longshur Jindi snorted coldly, avoided Tai Mujin's attack through the void gate, and then once again escaped from the dimensional wall, coldly looking at the 3 people who were still trapped in the dimensional wall in the distance. TSK, I didn't expect that Longshur would actually stop these 3 people at the last moment. I really don't understand why Longshur would do this. Seeing this scene, the surrounding dragon kings of the 4 seas said in confusion, yes, it's completely unreasonable. Even if Longshur succeeded in stopping these 3 guys this time, he himself will not feel good. Even the personal shield of his own sword mistress was broken. This is not a simple injury. I estimate that this time, Longshur Zifu must have suffered a lot of damage, and he won't be able to recover to his peak state within half a year. The Dragon King of the EC was worthy of being an old guy who had lived for more than 100,000 years. At a glance, he could see through the state of Longshur Jindi. You guys, we didn't lose this time. Longshur didn't eat the winning move. On the contrary, he won't be able to recover within half a year. In this half a year, I will make the whole city of London run with blood. Tai Mujin said with a sneer. We have already used our trump card. I'm afraid we won't be able to break the dimensional wall in a short time. Tesla said with some worry. Don't be afraid. Even if all the people in the stronghold are dead, it's enough as long as the 3 of us are still alive. We will make London pay the price. Tai Mujin said coldly. Hey, there's no other way. This is the only way. Although they still had the strength to use their ultimate move for the second time. If they used their ultimate move for the second time, then it wouldn't be as simple as using their origin. It would be directly using their lifespan to fight. These Yuanko weren't that stupid. They decided to still use ordinary attacks to deal with the dimensional wall. Anyway, at this time, the personal shield of Longshur Jindi's Emperor Sword Gaia had been broken. Even if Longshur Jindi had 100 guts, he would not dare to stop the 3 flood level Yuan Ko. Without Long Sure Jindy's obstruction, the energy of the dimensional wall began to decline at a much faster rate than before. In less than 20 minutes, the dimensional wall would be broken. Where are you now? My Zifu is seriously injured, but the dimensional wall can still support for 10 minutes. If you don't come over in 10 minutes, I won't be able to stop you. Although there were still 20 minutes left, Long Sure Jindy directly changed it to 10 minutes. This was also a kind of social art. My Majesty, there are still 20 minutes left. Don't you think it's too much to lie to me like this? Gu Shirhan's communication device quickly replied, You're already here? Seeing that Gu Shirhan knew the exact time within a few seconds, Long Sure Jindy frowned and asked, Your Majesty, this little girl has already traveled all over the world. Now, I'm already 108,000 miles away from London. Gu Shirhan's reply made Long Sure Jindy want to hit someone. After calming down for a while, Long Sure Jindy suppressed his anger and replied, You have to know that you have to pay the price for doing and speaking. Your Majesty, don't be angry. Although this little girl has left, this little girl's younger brother has already arrived. This little girl's younger brother is 10 times more capable than this little girl. Your Majesty can rest assured. After Long Sure Jindy finished reading the communication device, he instinctively looked down and saw a handsome teenager standing not far away, waving his hand coldly as a greeting. Gahan. Long Sure Jindy, of course, would not fail to recognize Gahan. After all, this was the guy he had schemed against for a long time. Gahan pays respect to your Majesty. Gahan walked slowly to Long Sure Jindy's side and bowed to Long Sure Jindy. His actions and procedures were so standard that there was nothing to say. You dare to appear in front of me. Long Sure Jindy was not in a good mood and said with a cold face, Have you forgotten that you are still a wanted criminal of the Sword Commission? I am indebted to your Majesty. How could this junior dare to forget? Although Gahan's words were respectful, his tone was full of sarcasm. If your Majesty is willing, then you can have this junior locked up in the commission for discipline inspection. This junior will definitely be arrested without putting up a fight and will not dare to resist. Humph! If you really have 10 times the ability of your sister in the whole of London, except for me, who can deal with you? Long Sure Jindy was also straightforward and directly said that no one in the whole of London could catch Gahan. Your Majesty, this junior is not here to quarrel with your Majesty. This junior is sincerely here to help your Majesty. Gahan put away his sarcasm and said in the most respectful tone, Is that so? Long Sure Jindy's face looked much better. He nodded slightly and said, Well, I have contacted the pirate Sword Immortal. As long as you and he can each hold off a flood-level Yuan Ko, I can kill the remaining one. Can you do this? It's just a flood-level Yuan Ko. This junior can still do it. Gahan said lightly. That's good. Long Sure Jindy did not show anything on his face, but he was extremely uncomfortable in his heart. This Gahan actually said that flood-level Yuan Ko's tone was even more relaxed than his. Did this guy think that his ability was already comparable to an Emperor Sword-level sword wielder? Although this was a joke that 10,000 people would think was a joke if they heard it. But for some reason, Long Sure Jindy had a feeling that he was very likely to be the joke. Chapter 1235. This guy is already seriously injured, yet he still dares to come back. Seeing Long Sure Jindy reappear in front of them, the 3 Yuan Kos were very surprised. Just now, Long Sure Jindy's Emperor Sword Greatsword Gaia had already withstood their unique skills, and even his personal shield had been shattered. It was reasonable to say that Long Sure Jindy should not have the guts to fight against the 3 of them again. After all, if they continued to fight, Long Sure Jindy's life might be in danger. According to the guess of the 3 Yuan Kos, Long Sure Jindy should have directly left and hid in London, no longer paying attention to them. But the 3 Yuan Kos had never expected that Long Sure Jindy would actually come back. Long Sure, you have gone too far. Do you really want to die? Then the 3 of us will fulfill your wish today. Guan Yu looked angrily at Long Sure Jindy and said, Humph! My world is righteous. How can you Yuan Kos come and go as you please? I, Long Shi Jiandi, will teach you a good lesson today and let you know the power of humans. Long Shi Jiandi shouted loudly. At the same time, some staff members took the risk of bringing out a camera and aimed it at Long Shi Jiandi in the dimensional wall and began to film the whole battle in the dimensional wall. All right, brothers, although we usually have a lot of disagreements, today we must join hands and let this shameless guy know the power of the three of us. Temujin looked at the other two and said, Yes, yes. Tesla and Guan Yu nodded. Today, Long Shi Jiandi's actions had made their anger go beyond the limit. If they did not teach Long Shi an unforgettable lesson today, they would really have no face to stay in this world. Long Shi Jiandi, take my blade. Guan Yu took the lead in launching an attack. Brandishing the green dragon crescent blade in his hand, he rushed towards Long Shi Jiandi. General Guan, your opponent is me? Suddenly, a sword appeared out of thin air. A white-bearded pirate sword, immortal, blocked Guan Yu's green dragon crescent blade. Pirate, do you want to die? An immortal sword tier, sword wielder dares to stop me. Guan Yu's eyes widened as he berated. General Guan, I'm not talented. I've fought countless opponents in my life, but I've never fought with a flood-level Yuan Ko. It just so happens that General Guan is here today, and my hands are very itchy. I am willing to compete with General, the pirate sword immortal said with a smile. Humph! You, a guy who can't even beat a spirit sword-level sword-bearer, actually has the face to say that you want to compete with this general. Very well, this general will chop your old bones into pieces. The two of them didn't talk much nonsense and directly started fighting inside the dimensional barrier. Although Guan Yu was one level higher than the pirate sword immortal, in order to break through the dimensional barrier, he had already consumed a lot of his strength. In the end, when he used his unique skill, he even consumed his own origin. Therefore, although he still had the upper hand, he was unable to defeat the pirate sword immortal in a short period of time. In short, Guan Yu had no time to fight with Long Shi Jiandi. The two of us go. They don't have a second pirate sword immortal. Seeing Guan Yu and the pirate sword immortal fighting, Temujin said to Tesla, All right, you help me block. I'm going to communicate with Hell. Tesla said lightly, which made Temujin angry. This Tesla actually wanted him to be a meat shield. But the three of them knew Yuan Ko very well. Tesla was indeed not the melee Yuan Ko. His strength lay in the endless thunder and lightning, so there was no reason for Tesla to rush to the front and fight. Therefore, Temujin finally brandished his saber and charged forward. But before Temujin's saber could get close to Long Shi Jiandi's body, a long sword flew out and, after a crisp sound of impact, abruptly stopped Temujin. Who are you? Looking at the man in front of him blocking his way, Temujin said somewhat manically. Junior Gahan pays respect to Genghis Khan. Gahan bowed and said lightly, You are Gohan. Temujin showed an expression of sudden realization. I've heard of you. You are the one who finally destroyed the operation of the Western magical beasts, killed that idiot Loki, and saved Yuzhong City, the master of the sword garret of Yuzhong City, Gahan? So Genghis Khan still knows this Junior's humble name. But Junior is no longer the master of the sword garret of Yuzhong City. Now Junior is just an ordinary sword bearer. Gohan laughed. You are not ordinary. By the way, why did I hear that you are still wanted by humans? Is it because you were bullied by the son of that bastard Long Shi, and he gave you power to oppress others? Temujin maliciously provoked. Why don't you learn from your sword immortal and join our martyr's palace? I promise to give you the title of king. Lord Genghis Khan, we are all smart people, so let's not talk nonsense. Take this. Gohan raised his Zhu Xian sword and prepared to fight with Temujin. Wait. Temujin waved his hand. I have one more thing to ask you. What is the relationship between you and Gu Shirhan, who disturbed my stronghold? She is my real sister. Gohan answered quickly and without any hesitation. Since you are able to appear here instead of helping your sister, it seems that your sister has already escaped. Temujin said with a cold face. Great Khan, my sister and brother Levi have escaped safely. By the way, that Jeeb is also dead, so there is no need to worry about him anymore. Gohan said lightly. Good, very good. Temujin gritted his teeth and said, Then today I will use your life to comfort my dead Jeeb. Hearing the tragic death of his men, Temujin suddenly became furious. How could he still care about Longshore Jindi in the sky? On the spot, he fought with Gohan. F***CK. Seeing this scene, Tesla's face turned pale. Now that Guan Yu and Genghis Khan were pinned down by their respective opponents, didn't this mean that he had to face Longshore Jindi directly? Are you kidding me? I am a long-range Yuan Ko. How can I fight with a sword mistress who has full melee skill points? But Tesla's ridicule had no effect. Seeing that Guan Yu and Temujin were pinned down according to his plan, Longshore Jindi smiled. The sword of Gaia at his waist was once again unsheathed, and the cold Emperor sword-level sword mistress Gaia pounced on Tesla. What? How did your personal shield completely recover? After fighting with Gaia for a while, Tesla suddenly found that Gaia's personal shield had actually recovered to its full state. This shocked Tesla to the extreme. Gaia was not an ordinary sword mistress. She could recover her personal shield after resting for 10 or 20 minutes. Gaia was an Emperor sword-level sword mistress. Once her personal shield was broken, it would take at least a week or more to fully recover. But now, only less than 10 minutes had passed. How could Gaia's personal shield suddenly recover to its full state? Could it be? Tesla raised his head and looked at the smiling Longshore Jindi, and a terrible guess emerged in his heart. This Gohan, you're really willing to give me 1,000 drops of Emperor blood just like that? Longshore Jindi thought happily. Gohan was very straightforward. Not only did he give Longshore Jindi the Emperor blood that he had promised, but he also doubled the amount, giving him 1,000 drops of Emperor blood. Longshore Jindi only took about 450 drops of Emperor blood to restore himself to his peak state. Then, he poured another 300 drops of Emperor blood on Gaia's sword, using the power of the Emperor blood to quickly recover his damaged personal shield. Longshore Jindi used 750 drops of Emperor blood in one go, which was equivalent to the total amount of Emperor blood he had accumulated for 5 years. In the end, there were 300 drops of Emperor blood left, which Longshore Jindi carefully stored. It could be considered that he had earned Emperor blood this time. However, when he thought of how he had to hand over 300 drops of Emperor blood to the Lun Yin family every 10 years, Longshore Jindi felt his heart ache. Tesla and Gaia had fought for about 10 minutes, and he had also suffered a lot of damage. As mentioned before, as a long-range Tesla was completely no match for a melee sword mistress. Moreover, this sword mistress was Gaia's sword. Among all the Emperor sword-level sword mistresses, it was known for its toughness and defense. In these two aspects, it was at the peak. Once entangled by Gaia, unless it was the desolate level Yuan Ko or the opponent voluntarily giving up, it would be impossible to escape. Ah! Tesla screamed. Due to his carelessness, Gaia's attack had hit his vital point. A large amount of blood flowed out of his body, which was undoubtedly one disaster after another. However, this attack had also made Tesla understand. He seemed to have figured everything out at this moment, and anxiously shouted to his other two companions. Not good. Longshore Jindi wants to kill the three of us? What? What? Guan Yu and Temujin were stunned at the same time. Tesla's words sounded like a joke to them. The three of them were flood-level Yuan Ko, second only to the desolate-level Yuan Ko in this world. Moreover, there were three of them here at the same time. Did Longshore Jindi eat leopard's gall? He actually wanted to kill the three of them, flood-level Yuan Ko. This was simply the biggest joke in the world, okay? No way. Until this moment, both Guan Yu and Temujin still did not believe that the three of them could possibly die here. You two idiots, Temujin said, while struggling to resist Gaia's attack. If you don't come to save me, I'm going to die in the hands of Longshore. If I die, you two won't be able to survive. Tesla, don't be an alarmist. Gaia's personal shield is gone. How can she fight you? How can you die in his hands? Temujin said with some disbelief. Damn it. Open your dog eyes and see if Gaia's personal shield is still there. Upon hearing Tesla's words, Temujin turned his head to observe Gaia. Only now did he realize that the personal shield of Gaia's sword had been completely restored. No, there's something wrong. Guan Yu, the two of us can't fight anymore. Hurry up and help Tesla. The three of us have to stick together. Understanding this, Temujin was ready to leave Gahan, who was still fighting with him, and rushed to Tesla's side with all his strength to ensure that Tesla would not die in the hands of Longsure Jindi. Genghis Khan, where are you looking? Your opponent is me. There was no way Gahan would let Temujin leave, so he immediately went up to him. Get out of here! Temujin used the saber in his hand to perform a set of exquisite sword technique. This set of sword technique was the result of a lifetime of fighting. When Temujin became Genghis Khan, this set of sword technique was even more blessed by the heavens. It had the power to cut off the karma of fate. Once hit by this sword, not only would the body be damaged, but even the past, future, fate, karma of the sword wielder would be damaged. It was really a powerful move. Even Longsure Jindi had to temporarily avoid this sword and did not dare to meet it head-on. But in the face of an opponent like Gahan, his sword technique suddenly became useless. In front of Gahan, his sword technique was as fragile as a child's sword technique. No matter how he attacked, he could never touch the opponent's body. Instead, he was constantly injured by Gahan. But at this time, the weakness of Gahan as a spirit sword wielder was also revealed. Unless Gahan used a big move or used the Sword of Chaos, even with the support of the Zhu Xian sword, it would be difficult to cause any fatal damage to Temujin, who was at the flood level, Yuan Ko. Get out of here! Get out of here! Get out of here! Temujin had really tried his best. He had used all the means he could, but he still could not slip away from Gahan, who was like a loach. Guan Yu, I can't leave for the time being. Hurry up and help Tesla, or our lives will be in danger. Temujin hurriedly said to Guan Yu, who was fighting with the pirate sword immortal. Guan Yu was also suffering, but could not say it out loud. This pirate sword immortal was fighting with all his might, without any regard for his own safety or endurance. He used all kinds of big moves, as well as moves that might consume his origin regardless of the cost. In the past, Guan Yu would have welcomed such a battle, because in 20 minutes at most, the pirate sword immortal would have consumed all his strength in advance because of his reckless fighting, and in the end, Guan Yu would be able to easily win. This was a battle with almost a 100% chance of winning. But the problem was that in these 20 minutes or so, he had to bear the attacks of the pirate sword immortal at the same level as himself. He absolutely could not be distracted during this period of time to help Tesla. Your Majesty, the pirate sword immortal, and I can only hold on for 20 minutes at most. You only have 20 minutes. Gohan's voice sounded in Longsure Jindi's ears. I got it. Longsure Jindi clenched his teeth. After all, the gap between Gahan and the pirate sword immortal and the two flood-level Yuan Ko was too big. They must have used all their capital to be able to hold on for 20 minutes. Therefore, they must get rid of this Tesla within these 20 minutes. Gaia, use the law of Earth. Longsure Jindi finally issued such an order to Gaia. Are you sure? Gaia asked hesitantly. There's no time to hesitate. It's time to send it. Longsure Jindi said firmly. Okay. Gaia nodded obediently. The law of Earth was Gaia's unique skill, which could make the power of the whole Earth gather on his body. As long as there was soil under his feet, Gaia could exert 10 times his original strength. But the law of Earth had a great shortcoming. That was, it caused too much damage to the land. Once the law of Earth was used in a certain place, the origin of the land would be damaged. For a long time in the future, the land that had been absorbed by the law of Earth would dry up and crack. In short, it would become a barren wasteland. If it were in other places, there would be no scruples in using the law of Earth. But this was the periphery of London. At that time, the whole city would be out of luck. London itself might not be damaged by the dimensional wall, but the land around London would not bear a single grain of rice for the next 50 years. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.